Welcome back to Derailed. I am your host, JJ Lahey, here with my good friend, Jake Schyvinck. Jake, thank you so much for joining us today here. We missed the people. I can tell you that. We missed the people. We got Too Old for This in the chat. Finally, it's been a couple weeks, and we missed Too Old for This. We really did. Last week, shameful as it is to say this, the chat let us down so much in terms of derailing that Jake and I intentionally had to derail the chat who just wanted to talk about football. All right? So listen.
It's true.
This can't be Too Old for This's full-time job. Y'all have to pick up the slack when he can't be here every second of every stream. Don't let us get so far down the weeds on pure football when we are supposed to be here for nonsense so much of the time. Now, thankfully, we were able to successfully derail the chat and get them talking about movies. And that was a good time. We may very well have to do a regular movie segment on this show during the off season. But there is some football to talk about. Jake, are you down for some jaw talk? You down for some 23 talk?
I guess so. Yeah, sure. Let's do it. We haven't done enough of it this offseason. That's the thing. We haven't done enough, so we might as well start now, for sure.
Who has the leverage? Who has the leverage in this situation? Seriously. How does it make you feel that all the reporters, all the media experts are finally coming around to where you and I have been this entire time? Jaire ain't going anywhere this offseason. It was never going to happen. At least that's what I always said, and you always went along with it. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big part of this was, again, Green Bay just not willing to accept probably whatever you want to say about it, low ball offers that other teams were probably throwing out there, right? It was, I mean, it was probably unlikely that anybody floated a third out there, because I think he'd probably be gone if they did. So, yeah, I mean, it is a weird spot to be in, right? Where we felt like probably by, after that wild card game loss, it was like, well, all right, well, they're going to make some kind of decision, resolution, at some point during the offseason. We're getting late in it now. We're getting later into the offseason, and there's not been any resolution. Again, if by some shocking, move he gets cut, okay, that's, maybe a little unexpected, but it feels like he is just, be sticking around. I know there was talk about him showing up at, was it the mandatory mini camp, right? Because I think we're doing kind of OTA stuff right now. So there's saying he's going to be showing up for that. And I know that they would prefer, Green Bay, that is, Ja to take a pay cut. I mean, he's not going anywhere, so it's unless they outright cut him, it's play on the pay cut, or, maybe Green Bay just hangs on to him anyway. I don't know. It is what it is. It feels like kind of, I think this over everything else has kind of been like, okay, all right, Summer, I don't even need you. Can we just get to playing? Like, I think that's the biggest thing. It's not even, I don't tire of the draft rumors and all that stuff, because it's kind of entertaining to just watch people, kind of just continue to react to every little thing the draft provides, and that shows how big football is. But in terms of disgruntled player who we knew was disgruntled, and it's been over 4 months now, like, it's kind of like, all right, I'm trying to muster anything I can to kind of put kind of a final point, final word out there to talk about Ja. And it's just kind of like, all right, well, something's going to happen. Right, and most likely he's going to be playing in Green Bay this year. Like, that's kind of what it is at this point. I don't. I knew it was going to be talk because of all the new news, but yeah, it is what. Yeah, I don't know.
It's also not like they have great options behind him to be playing cornerback.
No,
it's thin if Ja isn't playing, and the market for him isn't great, and they're not going to save enough money by just cutting him outright to make it worth not having him on the team. The other thing is, like, I don't think that we've heard much of anything credible to suggest that they are frustrated with who Jaire is, or what kind of person and leader he has been, for the 2024 season and into 2025. That it's not like they just think he's a locker room cancer. They got to get out of there and eat the cost to do so. The only rumors we've ever heard are frustration about his availability. So at what point does frustration about his availability translate into, hey, let's eat a bunch of dead cap just to get him off the roster? To me, the math just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Adam says Ja is just cornerback version of Aaron Jones. I think that that's not the worst comparison, because Aaron Jones' questions were about age, availability, cost, and fantastic person, fantastic leader that you liked having on the team when he was available. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good comp.
Yeah, I like it. It's going to be tough to see him go whenever that may be, because as we kind of mentioned, as you mentioned already, JJ, it's like this room isn't super well equipped to, I think, handle him not being out there unless guys take some big jumps forward. So yeah, it's kind of a tough spot where the draft kind of told you though that like Green Bay was kind of intent on like having Ja play. Like it was kind of going to be, okay, if they pick Hairston or Amos or somebody else early in this draft, it's going to be like, oh, okay, that's it. Like we're out of here, and it just never happened. So yeah, that's where we're sitting at this point, is just kind of in limbo, holding out for any scrap of news that's going to come out. And yeah, it's why it's a tough part of the off season where you're just kind of hanging around, just like, is there going to be anything that kind of strikes the iron a little bit this off season while it's like May, June, July before camp starts? This is probably the closest thing that we're going to get, other than perhaps a vote that might have not gone through last week as well. So, but yeah, it is. It's a tough part of the offseason where if this was going on, in training camp of like, oh, it's a pay cut, and it's kind of like, okay, yeah, plenty of guys are asking about their contracts, type of thing. But because this is kind of continued to draw out over the offseason, we kind of have to, bring it up every once in a few shows, because, something else is being ordered.
On that note, okay, so there's a TJ Watt controversy regarding his
and this too.
His contract. Give me your take on that. Do you think TJ Watt is going to get moved due to the contract situation?
I
haven't heard that it's going to happen this year, but it sounds like at the end of this season is when the people who expect him to be moved expect him to be moved. Ooh, wait a minute. Breaking news. Tool for this pound of gas station that has Strabango.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
No, that was important. That is fine. That is totally fine. Yeah, so he's got, wow. Wait, no. This is it. He's a free agent. So there won't,
he's not a free agent right now, is he?
No, but if they don't make a move by end of season, like he will just walk.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to look at like teams who you look at it and go, okay, who needs pass rush? Who didn't address it? And also a contender. I guess it depends on who you view as a contender. There's one that came up that I think could be a possibility for him. Yeah, I mean, because I mean they did what they drafted somebody, right? I think. Now I've got to go back.
Well, they drafted Derek Harmon.
Oh no, I mean sorry. Team trading for.
Oh, I don't know who.
My fault. Yeah, because like again,
49ers. Who's your team trading for?
I'm trying to think if they have anybody else. Tampa Bay was something that came up of like if Reddick he's dealing with stuff already. They're talking about him not being kind of like ready to roll for mini camp and stuff like that. Where if they're a team that's all in, and obviously I think Detroit would also fall under this, of course. To make a move mid-season to make a push like that feels like, one or two of the teams that would make that happen. So,
yeah, Tampa took David Walker in the 4th round, which I wouldn't, list that today prior to having seen him play a snap. I wouldn't list that as anything that would be any kind of a factor for me.
Yeah, and I think for Watt, you kind of have to get him into a 3-4, right? He has to wide nining, playing kind of that role, affecting the pass game a little bit as well, like, getting in throwing lanes, but also being able to just work the corner and have a runway to work with. Like it's not going to be a Green Bay fit, so I don't think we have to worry about that one unless he's playing like Sam linebacker type of thing, and that's just not somebody on the salary he's on to go get him for, a half year. So that would be unlikely for Green Bay, but there are certainly teams who are still in that 3-4 that could add him as the final piece, perhaps, for the run. Buffalo's room, I think, is too deep. I don't even know if Pittsburgh is going to trade in the conference or not. Denver would be another one that would, I think, that I would consider if I were them. And I was
Denver makes more sense. Makes more sense to me, I guess. I mean, the Bills drafted somebody in the 3rd round, I think, but they've I don't think of them as a team rotation that has. So you do think that they're stacked at defensive end, slash outside linebacker?
I think they have a hockey level rotation.
The Bills went on 3-4?
I don't think so, but they do often line up in some of the over stuff a little further from the ball, and like they've had Von Miller there. They haven't changed scheme since they added him, and he's not truly necessarily put the hand in the dirt early down defender. So I think they could probably make it work. But again, they've got plenty of guys in the room. So yeah, Denver, Tampa Bay, Detroit, Philly, if they're feeling frisky, I guess, just like, yeah, sure, why not? That's kind of it, I think, in terms of who would go after him. Because again, you have to be in the mode of like, yeah, unless we're like re-signing him, this is a half-year rental to go win it all. So that's going to be an interesting one to follow.
Adam wants to know, do you guys feel better about the draft, specifically Green Bay not going cornerback, basically, now that it seems Ja is going to be back? So, I mean, better, no, because I always thought Ja was going to be back. So I don't think that this changes how I feel about the draft kind of period. And also, just like philosophically, I don't want to be trying to plug starter roles with draft picks. Like, I'm fine with attacking areas of the roster that are thin with draft picks, but I mean, even with an early first round pick, like if that is your plan A is like, this guy is going to solve this problem for us as a rookie. Like, the hit rate in year one on first round rookies, like, they're not usually making fantastic contributions in year one, man. So I wouldn't want that to be my saving grace, you know? Like, okay, I look back at our 2021 season, we got to a spot really quick where Stokes had to be a full-time starter, and thank goodness he played really well. But like, we knew in the moment how fortunate we were that we were getting starter level play from Stokes in that season. Like that, that was a big deal.
Yeah. I think in the draft, you're again early in the draft is like a look of like, okay, we're looking for future starters, quality starters, perhaps elite starters. We'll see how it goes, and things change a little bit maybe later for some teams looking for depth and role players and special teamers and all that stuff. I know if anybody's watched the Philly kind of cut of like their inside the draft stuff, Roseman's like, no, we're looking for future starters on day 3. We're not messing around anywhere else. We'll swing 6 times on day 3. Hopefully we get 2 future starters out of it. So, yeah, it is a future starter type of thing. There's no guarantee you're going to see everything come together in year one, because it's the expectation that's levied, but probably shouldn't be. Especially for several different positions where the learning curve is steeper. Playing corner's hard as a rookie. It's very difficult. Playing tight end, playing linebacker. Linebacker especially, extremely difficult position to play as a rookie. So, and quarterback, of course. No, I mean, obviously. So, yeah, no guarantees with that.
Why, by the way, it was like extra impressive that we got the season we did last year from Edgerrin Cooper.
Yeah, and again, he didn't even, he wasn't out there all the time either, right? It was like kind of like they were mitigating the snaps a little bit for him throughout the season of like, don't put everything on the plate all at once for
and that frustrated a lot of people, but they were doing him a favor in the long run of working him in to the extent that they felt was going to be beneficial for him. I think they handle it pretty much exactly correctly in year one for Edgerrin Cooper. So, obviously we're all excited to see what's he going to do with another off season here, especially an off season of conditioning. Not him, he's already in fantastic shape, but NFL conditioning.
Yeah. And
just really getting to a point where hopefully he understands our defensive scheme now this year. Because that was a big limitation last year. Last year you had packages you could put him out there in. And you could tell he had some simple instructions that he was given for what to do on that play.
Oh, for sure.
And it was super effective. Massive credit to Anthony Campanile and Jeff Hafley. I'm excited to see what they dial up this year, obviously minus Campanile. Stupid Dolphins. Why do you have to be so smart and take our good coaches?
Yeah. That's a tough one.
Because they fired Joe Barry and replaced him with Anthony Campanile, didn't they? The Dolphins? Or no, Campanile's the DC, isn't he? He's the DC.
Wait.
I'm just going to Google it. Anthony Campanile is the Jaguars.
Jacksonville? Yeah.
He's the Jaguars DC. Yeah, the Dolphins have Joe Barry as the linebackers coach at the Jaguars.
They have
Campanile as their DC.
Oh, Miami has someone that came from Baltimore as their DC.
Oh, yeah.
One of the guys everybody was talking about.
Weaver.
Yeah, Anthony Weaver. That's who it is.
Weaver, I think, was, if I remember correctly, I think Weaver was my favorite. They had either 3 or 4 guys. They had Chris Hewitt, Zach Orr, Anthony Weaver. I think there was a 4th guy
probably
in that Ravens room. Huh?
I said, yeah, there probably was. It's not coming to mind, but
I think Weaver, I concluded, was my favorite of those guys, but I liked all of them. Honestly, actually. Tool for this says, what happens first? Jaire is officially back or Rodgers is a Steeler? I guess if I had to put money on it, I would say Jaire because I feel confident that will happen. And I'm only like 60% sure Rodgers is going to be a Steeler because I think if he wanted to be a Steeler, he would be one already. There's reports out there that some people in the know still think Rodgers is waiting out Minnesota, that Rodgers still thinks Minnesota might be in play. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But there are people out there who believe that.
Yeah.
And I got to say, I mean, there's just a pretty steady drumbeat of reports saying that he's weighing Pittsburgh versus retirement. So that to me does not sound like a guy who wants to go be a Steeler. Because we know that he would sign with Minnesota tomorrow if they would take him.
No question.
What do you think it is about Pittsburgh that he's not interested in, by the way? Because
they're not very good. That's what it is. They're not very good. I wouldn't.
But neither were the Jets. The Jets were freaking awesome.
No, I agree. That's fine. I'm just saying, like, I don't.
Like the Steelers have a better roster than the Jets have had.
But like, what's super exciting? Like what?
Well, their defense,
what about,
their offensive line has stepped it up considerably in the last 2 years.
Other than tackle, yes, but tackle's been abysmal.
Yeah, that's true.
Tackle's been abysmal for them. And again, Father
Prince
Tom didn't play.
Says, "Is New Orleans out of the question as a Rodgers landing spot?" So
why on earth
can't remember the answer to that. I read something about it.
That, I mean, are they going to win 2 games this year?
Here we go. Fox News. Aaron Rodgers reveals team he has no interest playing for. ... He also teased joining the Steelers. So, yeah.
Why would you want to play for New Orleans?
Would you consider playing for the Saints? Rodgers said no. That's the answer. I've played there a couple times, but the answer is no. I'm too old. I don't want to live in Louisiana. Sorry. Okay, there's your answer. I knew he had said something about it the last couple days.
That team is going to be horrible. I would not even think about going there. Again,
where are
all
you?
Due respect, but again, Pittsburgh, I just don't think like.
Where are you on Kellen Moore? Are you a Kellen Moore hater?
No, I just think the roster's bad, and there's no reason for like Rodgers to go.
Oh, the roster's terrible. Roster's terrible. I've always been a Kellen Moore truther, as opposed to a hater.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's. I mean, they are 2 years away from
being 2 years.
I would say 2 years away and a GM away.
They're 2 years away from being 2 years away, I think, because of all the credit card work all the credit they've been building up that they're not paying off, and they're waiting to pay it off. So
I enjoy where they're at. I enjoy where they're at because of the way that they have run things. Like I'm a huge, so I love Howie Roseman. I hate Mickey Loomis. All right, Howie Roseman tends to do business the way that I would want to do business as a GM, and Mickey Loomis and with Les Snead, is that the Rams GM?
Yes.
Mickey Loomis and Les Snead run things the way that fans want them run, and they have both, I would say, gotten unfairly lucky in getting some okay-ish results with their crappy strategies, and it makes me mad that they are validating for some fans, oh, you can do XYZ and you'll go win a lot of games or you'll win a Super Bowl. And it's like, no. They won in spite of the stuff that you're excited about them doing. There's other moves that they made that got them to where they are. And then they got there in spite of the things that you want teams to be doing. I don't like those two GMs. Pittsburgh has a really good donut shop. It's only 5 hours from Scranton. I don't know. Tool for this says Rodgers probably sees the Watt situation and how DK is basically the only guy. He likes Tomlin, but that's all that's there. Where would you be at if? Let me ask you this: would George Pickens still being in Pittsburgh move the needle for you at all if you were Rodgers?
No. Absolutely not. Two guys who want the ball way too much. No, thank you. No, thank you. I would much rather just wait out Minnesota. No question. It's a way better run organization right now. It's just like Pittsburgh is just like, again, they're trying to do the like beat 9-8 again and lose by 22 in the wild card round. Like, have the stones to not be mid. Be really bad and get the reset you need. Or like, they just don't. Yeah, Pittsburgh.
I mean, their biggest issue has been a complete inability to do anything about the quarterback position. Like, genuinely, out of all the quarterback options that they have brought through since Ben retired, you cannot tell me that there has been a single better move that they've made than drafting Will Howard. And I don't say that is not to say like, oh yeah, Will Howard. That is to crap on all the other attempts that they've made to address quarterback. Like, Kenny Pickett was an awful selection. Justin Fields, Russ Wilson, give me a break. And then you got the revolving Mason Rudolph merry-go-round. Like, Mason Rudolph has to sit up on the edge of his bed every morning and thank God that Tim Boyle exists, so he's not, and Will Levis, so he's not the worst quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. And maybe, just maybe, if they don't land Rodgers, they will maybe be bad enough to be near the top of the draft and take a QB. Wouldn't that be something?
What stings is that there have been decent QBs who have been within range for them, and they don't take a swing. And then 2022 is the year that they go out and draft a first-round quarterback. The worst quarterback class that we've had, I don't know, maybe in my lifetime.
I mean, 2013 was not good either.
2013 didn't happen. We don't talk about that.
Well, that counts. Unless lifetime stopped. All right. Is Pittsburgh actually... I'm trying to think of quarterbacks that have been in range for Pittsburgh. The problem with Pittsburgh is they pick like 20th every year.
Well, they could have had Jordan Love.
Yeah,
they could have had
2020.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love. Obviously, there's Brock Purdy.
Yeah, that's a tough one to. Where was Pittsburgh? Wait a minute. No.
What you got?
The Minka trade rid them of their first round pick in 2020. So they did not have a chance to take Love. They may have still had a chance to take Hurts, though. Yeah, they did have a chance to take Hurts. So they really haven't been in a great position to take a round one QB.
Yeah.
In a long time. Because...
Yeah, they took Mason Rudolph at the third in 2018.
In 2018, yep.
You know, you had a couple guys who didn't really pan out, like Trask and Mond and Ritter and Hooker and Levis. I didn't like a single one of those guys.
Yeah, the non-firsts. Yeah.
And I didn't like Drew Lock in 2019. So it's Jalen Hurts is kind of the only out.
That's it.
Jalen Hurts, and then obviously the entire league, including the 49ers, missed on Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
So
they consistently pick between like 18 and 24. Just never in a position to do it. Just never. So maybe this is it. Unless they somehow find some voodoo magic to go 9-8 with Will Howard playing QB. which I guess they're going to give him a chance, plenty of a chance then if they do that again, which again continues their cycle of just never being in position. But like, hey, will the fans be okay if we win 9 or 10 games? Yes? Great.
Yeah, Arthur Smith is still their OC, right?
Yes.
Give me your official professional stance. Should Rodgers retire or keep trying to play somewhere this year?
I mean, I would try to play somewhere personally. Because again, you can linger around. So QB could go down in a situation where they're ready to go. And you just come in and roll. Like,
Tool for this says Matt Canada got fired in time to miss the tariffs. Beautiful.
Nice.
Honestly, the Steelers saw that coming, and that's why they fired him. They wouldn't fire him due to his crappy offenses. Hey, we got Bruce Edmonds in the chat. Bruce Edmonds, happy to have you here.
I mean, it is just Minnesota. Like, really. If McCarthy just doesn't look good or the knee continues to bother him, like, you're ready to go. Maybe Denver, if Knicks goes down and they want a 1-year rental and they feel like they're ready to go all in and do that stuff, but I don't know.
Why do you think Knicks would go down?
Why? Because injuries happen.
Oh, you're just saying that they're one of the teams that has like zero depth QB.
Yeah. Where it's like if you're in position to take steps forward and you lose your QB, like you can bring him in to potentially make the run. Minnesota's obviously the best one of those because it's a guy in a rookie contract who you could bring in a 1-year rental if he's just not ready to go and the knee is still an issue. Because again, I just don't think Pittsburgh I kind of get why he's holding out. Of Pittsburgh, because I just don't feel like they're like a team where you walk in there and you go, "Oh yeah, this is exceptional. We can do this." Like, and it probably took New York for him to kind of realize that of like, okay, maybe it isn't. Like maybe we're, if I thought this was really good and I'm not even as confident about this situation as I was about New York, like why should I go there? Type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you have I don't feel like you and I talked a lot about Rodgers' decision to go to New York. Where were you at the time of his decision to go to the Jets?
I have no problem going there. I think they needed to continue to invest in O-line once he got there, and clearly that was the case, considering what happened 4 plays in. But yeah, I still think they have. I still thought that roster had plenty of talent. Obviously, the defense the year prior was, smothering people left and right, and so yeah, I thought it was a unit that if they gelled the right way could have gone a long way.
I like this question from Bruce Edmonds. Do you expect more 12 personnel this year? Or with the loaded wide receiver room, where do they exploit Minnesota and Detroit with lax secondaries? It's a thoughtful question. I like my big problem with trying to run more 12 personnel is that I think that there's a pretty big drop off from Tucker to the other two tight ends that we have on the roster. Sorry to Luke Musgrave, but like if you're going to run 12 personnel, I just don't think you're doing it with Luke Musgrave. I think you're doing Kraft and Sims, honestly. Like Musgrave, when he's going to get playing time, they're going to want to do different things with him. Honestly, I kind of expect them to kind of use him more as an H-back this year. That's the wrinkle that I see them working Luke Musgrave into the offense this year. I don't know. What would you do, Jake, if you were the OC?
It's tricky because
the secondary is the area to attack for Minnesota and Detroit. You can throw on both those teams.
It is. It definitely is. I think with Minnesota, you have to be careful because Flores is going to present similar looks and run different things. Cover 2, cover 4, palms, quarters. He has all of that in the bag, and clearly last year they picked it up very, very quick. Like the DBs picked it up. They understood what needed to be done in all of those coverages, and the blitzes, continue to screw with quarterbacks and offensive lines, and just again throw offenses in a blender. So yes, if you have good protection and Love takes care of what he needs to in terms of quick process, reading out what's going on. Yes, it's exploitable. Detroit is exploitable, just purely because, again, outside of the safeties, I don't feel like there's a lot of threats out there. Again, maybe Terry Arnold takes a step in year 2 for them. Well,
it's not just personnel in Detroit that factors in. All right, like you mentioned, Flores being extremely established.
And the Lions just lost Aaron Glenn.
They just lost Aaron Glenn. Which, I don't know what the heck to expect from Kelvin Shepherd. Okay, former NFL linebacker. I think he was a 3rd-round pick. And he's been in Detroit for a few years as their outside linebackers coach or inside linebackers coach. I think outside backers coach. And I don't know what to expect from him at all in terms of, is he going to change the scheme at all? I would lean no. This is his first stop as a DC. What Aaron Glenn did worked really well. I think he's going to try and replicate what they did. But,
probably.
So the defensive roster looks a tiny bit different. You got a totally different guy, with his hands on the steering wheel. And, frankly, what Aaron Glenn did the last few years in Detroit was nothing short of miraculous. It was never a fantastic defensive roster to begin with. And then you look at the insane injuries that would pile up. Hey, we lost all of our linebackers. We lost all of our defensive linemen. Whatever. We're still, just about the best defense in the NFL. Massive credit to Aaron Glenn for pulling that off. That, to me, all the credit has to go to Aaron Glenn for that. And I don't have any reason to believe that Kelvin Shepherd or anybody else is going to be able to step in and get the same results with a fully healthy defensive roster that Aaron Glenn did, because we saw very clearly that it was not the players, because the players would disappear and the defense still produced the same results. But look, our entire front 7 are all gone, except for, James Houston is still here, trying to twist ankles off. But, 6 of the front 7 are gone, and the defense doesn't look any different. So that, to me, takes away a lot of credit for just, which players you're working with. But it's such an unknown. And I think, obviously, Flores is the much scarier defense to go up against, because it's going to be tough. But I'm a little bit scared of the unknown as well. I kind of like the familiar.
That's fair.
I like the lethal familiar a little bit more than I like the unknown that may suck.
Yeah. Not to mention you're going to get the unknown right off the bat. So, yeah, there's certainly a little bit of that. I think Detroit, again, continues to the Tyleik Williams pick in the first. We're building out that interior. We're going to have 2 guys who can, basically take on 3 at any time, and then, get the linebackers to get to their spots. So they're going to be they're building to stop the run, because they know what they've been doing running the football is how teams are going to again, adjusted the 2 high shells and all that. So they understand, they've been kind of maybe a half step ahead, perhaps in that regard. So they understand that. The question is a little bit less of like, I think they're the anti-Falcons for me on defense, where it's like Atlanta has like, oh, we added all these awesome pass rushers, and it's like very cool, very nice for you. How are you getting to 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8? Like, how are you getting there to be at your most effective? Detroit is like, okay, you can get to the 3rd and 7, but what happens? You hope the safeties are in a position to make a play. Or you hope that Hutchinson wins the one-on-one, because other than that,
I think that's their plan. The plan
that's it. Which, again, banking on turnovers is just not a sustainable thing, first of all. And so,
every team in the last few years that has had a player like Hutchinson, like that has just turned into the team's MO. You look at the Texans, you look at the Steelers. It's been their MO. I think the Steelers, so they like set and smashed the record by like 20 plus games of consecutive games with a sack. Like the streak finally broke at like 47 or something stupid. I think the previous record had been like 21 or something. It was wild.
Yeah.
Because, hey, you have a guy or a couple of guys up front, and sure, the Lions do have the defensive linemen to create that kind of pressure. But are they going to stay reliant on it? And I would argue that with a young first-time defensive coordinator, the odds of that happening are pretty high.
Yeah.
Especially if it works for the first half a season or the first season or whatever, you get this young guy who's never done it before, and the players are getting the job done. That's all the reason in the world to stagnate and not develop into a talented play caller. And get to stick around years longer than you deserve to because of a hot start. Look at freaking Joe Barry, right? Year 1 for Joe Barry in Green Bay, I vividly remember listening to podcasts at the conclusion of year 1 of Joe Barry, where the whole topic was, we got to build around Joe Barry. All right. We got to quit throwing talent at the offense and lean into Joe Barry and his defense. Why? Because of basically a half a season of good results, just a hot finish to his first year with the team. It's not a very useful point that I'm making, but I'd like to see this happen. Frankly, I'd like to see it happen in Detroit.
Yeah, back to the original question, real quick, of are they going to be in 12 a little bit more?
Yeah,
probably. Again, I think there's. You got to see it from some of these. Like we've talked ad nauseum. Reed, Wicks, Doubs dropping the football, right? And the shift and the what we're seeing of teams running the football more under center stuff. I think they're certainly hoping that Musgrave can take a step. Now, I don't think Musgrave is going to be, running much other than into the flat, up the seam, or on deep over routes, because that's just where he's at his best. So he doesn't have to turn sharply with any of the routes that he's running, because quite frankly, it probably isn't going to happen. He just doesn't seem coordinated enough to do it. And it's not that he's super, super young either. So I do think best case scenario, Kraft is going to have to be in line a ton, unfortunately, where it's not going to have two guys you can move in and out to the kind of the flex wing tight end position while the other's kind of in that true inline spot, right? So that makes it difficult, and it makes it, I think, especially difficult because of how Green Bay's running the football now with a lot more gap, a lot more power stuff, where it just doesn't seem like Musgrave is built for that, to sit in line on a lot of those. He seems more like of an ancillary piece of less of him, true assignments at the line of scrimmage. It's going to be more of hey, can you pick the safety off? Can you pick off a linebacker perhaps? because they're getting more vertical with the run game, it just feels like Musgrave isn't quite built to be the combo tight end in those situations. I think he would have been better suited to help out a lot more in line if they were still heavy outside zone, wide zone stuff. So it feels like, again, you're going to have to rely on kind of Kraft and Sims for a lot of the 12 stuff where you feel like you need to, have that level of push on the edge. But there are going to be situations where Musgrave can come out there, still be an ancillary piece while also being a threat up the seam. So it's not going to, I guess, totally hamper them, but it is going to limit their ability to, give Kraft and maybe even Sims a little bit different assignments when he's out there, just because I don't think he's quite built for what they're trying to do now versus what they're trying to do when he was a second round pick. That's my concern. That's why it would have been really nice to have a Loveland or a Warren on the team. If you really want to be in heavy 12 personnel, like it makes more sense. But I do think they're going to be under center. They're going to be running a lot with Jacobs. Hopefully Marshawn Lloyd, gets some looks this year and can stay healthy. So I think they're built for it. If Sims can be a major factor as a blocker, it's going to help Kraft get unleashed more. That's really how you're going to have to do it, or just straight out of 11, right? Where you still have an illusion of running. That's where maybe, again, Savion and maybe, Wicks could kind of be your adjusters a little bit of like, yeah, we can help in the blocking game as well to kind of put you in more of 11.5 looks, like kind of the Rams do a lot with Puka. I know we've talked about this a ton, but I think it's really interesting and a good question to keep kind of pushing this home of like, they can still be in 11 without totally being there. If Savion really takes a step and like shows that I can be a dominant blocker in addition to kind of my rear movement skills, and then you have Wicks kind of potentially being that guy as well, lining up in the slot, and it gives you all those opportunities for Doubs and maybe even Reed and Golden on the perimeter to, win your ones, find space against zone, all of that good stuff that we need, the high level receiving play to do. So yeah, it's a tough one where Musgrave isn't quite built to be the combo tight end for this offense. But I do think you're still going to see more of it this year, because I do think there are going to be opportunities for Sims to be in there and Kraft to get unleashed in a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different routes to get him heavily involved. And that's kind of why I talked about last week of like, I think Kraft could be potentially the guy to kind of the offense runs through him a little bit more than we've seen in the past. Yeah. So that's it would be incredible if at 253 Musgrave was a little better suited to kind of this more vertical, get downhill in a hurry run game. It just isn't the case, which is tough. Just tough for him. Just kind of another add-on to his like this plus the injuries of like, man, it's just landing spot is so crucial and availability is so crucial when you get drafted, of like you could just kind of get phased out if something switches like that. So
do you have any thoughts about the fact that there's a couple different guys on the roster who we drafted really recently who no longer seem to be schematic fits? Obviously, the biggest examples are Jordan Morgan and Luke Musgrave. There's other guys as well. Do you have any thoughts? Is that just hey, it happens sometimes? You gotta.
Yeah, I think so. I know where Musgrave has made his hay is on big plays, like on big plays down the field off of play action where you get that late release. It's tough. Things can change, right? The cyclical, shift has kind of already begun, and so you kind of, you get to a point where Morgan they thought would be a right guard, and it's maybe like, well, maybe he's just not the true pusher in there. Of like, okay, well, let's get him back to tackle where we know he can kind of show off the footwork and movement skills. So yeah, there is some of that for sure, and guys get stuck in tough positions, especially, again, defense changes. You're in a 3-4 to a 4-3. It's kind of like, well, wait a minute. I'm a 248-pound pass rusher. Where am I playing in this new defense? It's kind of, well, you're kind of not anymore, the type of thing. Like, it certainly does happen, and it's good that it's only like we're only kind of looking at 2 players for this. Instead of like a bunch, which is a good thing. Like, it's not out of place, this shift for Sean Ryan, which is really nice. It's definitely not out of place for someone like Belton, who I think we kind of have talked about plenty of, like, yeah, he could play here or here type of thing. So that's nice, at least, that it's only been a couple. Now, both of them are top 45 selections, so that's not ideal that those are, guys that were picked high in the draft. But I do think they want to get Musgrave involved a little bit. It's just, again, it's not going to be, at least, coming out the gate of, like, it's not going to be like, well, Musgrave can be the true inline guy here, the Y, and then you have Kraft at the flex. And if we have the illusion of getting downhill, it's kind of like, do you though? Do you really? And so that's where I do think, yeah, it is a tough situation when it comes to that, because it can happen in coverage too, right? It could happen with the coverage principles of, like, man, no, I need to be off. I need to be able to process and see in front of me rather than being up at the line of scrimmage. Like, there are certainly corners who go through that as well. Like, it happens at every position, essentially, of like, yeah, this adjustment, doesn't quite fit me, unfortunately. So,
yeah, Bruce, Bruce dropped a question in the chat that, like, grabbed me super weird, and then corrected it. He said, offensive line is still pass block weak and run block strong. And then he said, wait, reverse what I said. And I was like, oh, okay. Because my first question was going to be, Jake, am I missing something?
No, I think you're.
I mean, at least last year, the run blocking was totally respectable compared to other recent years for the Packers. Basically, since
it's kind of like
2019, they were a pretty darn decent run blocking team. I remember, like, Bakhtiari in particular. The difference in Bach's run blocking from 18 to 19. It's like Matt LaFleur got here, and he's like, hey, so you're like a all-pro kind of guy. I feel like if I ask you to do something, that you can do it really well. Has anybody ever asked you to run block before? And he's like, no, not really. He's like, hey, here's how I want you to do it. Oh, I'm going to destroy the NFL and be the best run blocker in the league. So that was kind of fun. But
yeah, that's true.
Bruce says, wasn't that more Jacobs and Jones before? Wasn't more Jacobs and Jones before? You're just talking about the running success in 24 and in 19. Is that what you're... Clarify for me, Bruce. I'm not following your question.
Yeah, I want to understand it for sure.
Something that I want to talk about. Here we go. Jacobs. What? Read this for me, Jake. What does this mean?
Wasn't that more and Jones?
Bruce, put down the beer. With all 10 fingers.
Oh, is he saying? Maybe he's saying
Jacobs now as the lead.
Okay. Wait. Okay. Wait. Okay. Wait.
Bruce.
Was 2019 a product of Aaron Jones being good? As the run blocking unit was good, Aaron Jones made them look better, and maybe also Jacobs made the run blocking look better in 24. I think that's what he's getting at. I think.
And okay,
I think that's what he's getting at.
To me, the obvious answer is like, hey, sure, you got to give the running backs some credit for being really good at their jobs in those years. But no, the offensive line also ran block. You say ran block? Run blocked? It's ran block.
I don't. Oh, that's an interesting
Has anybody ever
question.
tried to say this sentence? Ran blocked? Run blocked? It's got to be run blocked. Rush blocked. I got a couple.
I need the
football coaches that I could call up and ask. I kind of want to. If I had my computer set up to be able to,
it says use
do the
ran for past
block.
Activities. So
ran blocked.
Ran block. I think that's right.
Which robot did you ask? Which robot did you
I
ask?
didn't ask a robot.
I'm going to ask a robot. Okay. Dear robot.
That's interesting. Now we're getting into derailed.
Now we're getting into
derailed.
Ran blocked.
Run block.
Run blocked. I should specify in the
runned blocked
football.
No, I want to see. I'm gonna look.
Okay. The robot says run blocked. Run blocked.
Really?
You wouldn't say ran blocked or run block. You would say run blocked. I think.
Well, no. You
so it makes a good point. You would say pass blocked.
That's because the English language sucks. Because of course you would say you wouldn't say that because all our English language is terrible. There's so many different.
Webcam disappeared. What the heck?
It did do that. But yeah, that.
The heck? Where's my video?
I don't know. Right now it's got Jordan Love in front of. Oh, it was like perfect actually.
Yeah, look at that
really
sexy
good.
Jordan Love.
That's really good.
Tool for this says
really
it's
good.
Run blocked. Yeah, I think you're correct. I think you're correct.
It sounds so weird because it sounds like you're running. Still,
Bruce Edmonds said I got vid blocked. That is the truth. I think I'm gonna have to refresh my stinking. All right, Jake, I'm gonna be gone for like 9 seconds.
All right, sounds good. Okay, as we were getting to the past tense stuff, I mean, Josh Jacobs, when you look at like yards after contact per attempt, yeah, his best 3 seasons, you look at, all above like 3.4 and above, where 2024 happened to be his best year of like yards after contact per attempt for Jacobs. And so I think it can be kind of both, where it's, and that's the kind of like the coverage versus pass rush debate that always happens, right? Of like, which is actually more important. And so like, I wonder if it's just kind of like it both elevate the others. Like Jacobs, because they switched the scheme up to help him, right? Like that conversely helps him, keeps him fresh of like, yeah, this is what I'm used to doing, all that. And the offensive line maybe again was the interior especially was maybe just a better fit and they felt like more comfortable there. But like, I do think they can elevate each other in those scenarios. And I know I'm looking at 2019 Aaron Jones. I mean, yeah, he had 19 touchdowns for sure. Yards after contact, forced missed tackles. They're both up there. Yards after contact wasn't, but like, I do think, again, I think you can, I think both elevate the other. Like, good offensive lines can make extremely average running backs look very, very good, and good schemes. Like, Elijah Mitchell was going nuts in San Francisco for like an 11-week span or so, and it's like, that's a 6th-round pick. Like, because it's a good fit. Because it's a good fit, and because the offensive line's doing their job, they're elevating his play, and the scheme fit is elevating his play as well. Like I do think there are certainly running backs that elevate and can hide offensive line deficiencies as well. Genty did a lot of great work when the O-line didn't. And so, yes, he certainly helped it. And him above replacement, for sure, no question. So I do think there is just – I don't think you can specifically say one helped the other 100%. Can you give maybe more credit to one or the other? Absolutely. But again, I think the Jacobs – Green Bay getting to gap power stuff where Jacobs had kind of been more half and half, essentially what it looked like last year in Green Bay as well. Like he had done that already in Vegas. That helps him. Conversely, that may help the offensive line. They've got some bigger guys, right? Jenkins wasn't going to have any problem doing that. Sean Ryan, another guy who can definitely move people around like that. That was helpful to him. And so, like, yes, maybe their play elevates because they're more comfortable in it. And then, Jacobs is going to, his play is going to be, impressive because that's who he is and that's where he's comfortable. And yes, did Jacobs help out the O-line on plenty of occasions? Sure. But I do think maybe the scheme change also helped the offensive line help elevate Jacobs as well, if that makes sense. Like, I do think there are just far more variables going on than just kind of being like, well, because he's coming in, he made them look better. Yes, but again, it's not a like 100% thing. So there are a lot of factors that went in, like the fact that the running game looked as good as it did, changing schemes, I think is kind of maybe a testament to like maybe some of those guys weren't great fits for what Green Bay was doing, previously, and so that's something else to discuss as well. So yeah, I just think again, I love the question from Bruce because I think it's a really interesting one, but it's just there's so many variables. So yes, did Jacobs maybe help the O-line a little bit more than the O-line helped him? Probably, sure. I think you could definitely say that. I think the scheme helped the O-line a little bit more as well, which in turn helps. So it is kind of that. Like a lot of things are going into it.
Bringing it full circle to a point we were making right before this, it feels like the front office and the coaching staff are not always on the same page in Green Bay, and I want to hit a couple of
because Jacobs and Morgan were in the same kind of off-season acquisition type of thing. That's it's not
and also to your point, just looking at some of the body types on the offensive line that they have had the last few years and then what they tried to do with them. But I do want to hit a couple of these questions that are starting to get older in the chat before maybe we circle back to this. We got a new user or new visitor in the chat here. Bayshore Park, bunch of digits. Do you know if OTAs will be open to the public tomorrow? First of all, Bayshore, thank you for joining the chat. Nice to have a new face in here. So I saw somebody else was answering the question. I do know prior to like 2022 or maybe 2021, there were OTAs that were open to the public, and that is no longer the case. I know for sure in 2019 that was a thing. 2020 that was a thing as well. I think 21 may have been the last year that was a thing. And my understanding is that they're going to have one OTA per each of the 4 weeks where they're doing OTAs, but that the media is going to be allowed to view part of it and have access to the players. And the rest of the time it's going to be totally locked down to the media. So your off-season access continues to dwindle a little bit. It's just the way the Packers have been doing things. Tool for this says, did you know you can't run in a campground? You can only ran because it's past tense. It's a pretty good tool for this.
A classic one. Yeah, I like it.
I'm not into dad jokes, but that's a good one right there. Also, why is Jordan Love common from John Wick? Here, this is I didn't get it finished, but I was working on a Jordan Love as an assassin who's hunting bears, and the bears weren't working out, so I put a wall up there instead. But I thought this one turned out nice, and then I forgot to upload it at the beginning of the stream. So, let's see here, and then here we go. The problem with Dylan is that he tried to be a different back than his body type allowed. Look at Emmanuel Wilson also being really good. I mean, just throw it on the pile of reasons why A.J. Dillon is disappointing to watch in Green Bay. Bruce says it's why they brought Heft to right guard and moving Jenkins to center. No? Jake, respond to moving Jenkins to center. So Bruce said it's why they brought Heft to right guard and moving Jenkins to center. Like my take would be like they moved Jenkins to center out of necessity.
Wait, what's why they moved? Have somebody else.
I think.
Oh, because of the scheme change. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what he's getting at.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think that Josh Myers was a poor fit for the scheme change. He just was for the new scheme. He just wasn't a great center.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know if he just Yeah, it's really the balance, I feel like, with a lot of the run game stuff that can go a little haywire. So, yeah, I mean, Jenkins going back to center, yeah, certainly necessity, certainly they Banks and I presume Belton are going to take the 2 guard spots. But yeah, I do think they, this shift wasn't by accident for a couple reasons. One, because Jacobs comes in and he's familiar with it. And 2, because of where we're at, right? Running gap stuff, is definitely worth it when you have, if there's not going to be a nose tackle on defensive line sometimes, and you got light guys out there at edge, and you got light guys playing linebacker, just don't go wide. Don't let them be able to hunt you down with their athleticism. No, push them around. Get to the second level with some guys is on top of it, and just push 215, 220-pound little skateboarder groms who are playing linebacker. Just send them home. Don't have to mess around with any of that. So yeah, I mean that shift is partially yes for Jacobs, partially because again this shift that's going on, and absolutely should be taking part in it. So yeah, no question.
Other than a handful of poorly managed snaps from Jenkins, he seemed good at center, but that issue will be fixed in the offseason. I have zero concerns about Elgton at center. I would have zero concerns about Zach Tom at center. Frankly, I wouldn't even be that scared if they were moving Sean Ryan to center. Not saying I want that to happen, but if that was the world I had to live in,
yeah, he's
you wouldn't see me losing sleep over that. Yeah. So, I mean, is center super important? Yeah. Is Elgton more than capable of putting together a good season at center? I mean, it's not even close.
Yeah.
Honestly, the only spot that I would be at all stressed about moving Elgton to would be somewhere along the right side of the offensive line. Maybe in particular, right tackle I wouldn't want to see. Again, that's why whatever year that was, 2022 or whatever, made me so mad. It was just never a good idea. But, I mean, putting Elgton anywhere else in the offensive line or tight end or whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't make me nervous at all. Okay, Bruce is bringing it full circle again. You mentioned front office versus coaching staff. Says Bruce Edmonds, got destroyed for saying there is a culture issue in the locker room. I think there is a disconnect. You saying you feel that right now? I would certainly say at times in the last couple of years there have been issues there, Joe Barry's final year there, and also Mike Pettine's final year there. Definitely felt like the defensive locker room was really in shambles. I mean, there was what year? 2023. That was Joe Barry's final year there. That was when you had Jaire getting suspended. Every single player on defense was clearly fed up and frustrated with what was going on with Joe Barry. You had Devondre Campbell having his little meltdowns and stuff, and I haven't gotten the sense that this is currently happening. I think maybe the one area you might look at is that the wide receiver room, it seems like the biggest problem that they have is all about where their headspace is at. All right. You call that culture, call it development. I don't know. But it seems like the wide receiver room has more uncertainty than anywhere else on the roster. And you see, Doubs is having issues. Jayden Reed seems like he's having issues of discontentment. Both of these guys that it enough that it is leaking out to the public, at least, that this is going on. And of course, it's all there plain as day for us to see the concentration drops, just the mental mistakes, running into each other, that kind of stuff. So if I was going to point to anywhere on the roster other than Matt Orzak and say, hey, here's a problem, with culture, wide receiver would maybe be that spot. And again, I don't think they're bad guys. but I don't have concerns about anywhere else on the roster. I know there's a lot of heartburn over Jaire, but I just think like we know Jaire. He's been around for forever. Yeah. We know what he's like, and why people continue to get surprised when Jaire is Jaire or think that there's something there. And it's just like, come on, you know who he is. I don't know why it's hard to remember who he is and hard to remember that stuff is just going to come up and it's worth it because he's such a good player and he is a pretty good leader. You know, but people get, I don't know, caught off guard by it or something. Matt Ozark owes his job to Daniel Whelan. Amen, brother. Adam Huddle said the wide receiver room is all the dudes who are all making no money. I mean, I'd like to be making their money. I'll just say that.
Would be kind of nice, yeah.
Bruce Edmonds says lost to Lions last game 3 years ago. I mean, I don't even care about that. Like,
that's a Rodgers year to me. That's still kind of like him trying to do it his way. So I don't think
things
that's
are
the
so
same.
different.
It's not this. That's not the necessarily
it's a different
the same
team.
Locker room, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like who
still
are you
a lot
going
of his
to point
friends
to
on it
from
too.
that game?
Like Lazard was on that team.
Who are you going to point to from that game and still be annoyed at them today? Who was on the roster? Like Kenny Clark. Like I think the list has to begin and end with Kenny Clark because who else is still here? Who was a big player in that game?
Yeah.
Brian Maffey wants to know why we're talking about Rodgers. Wasn't he always a Jet? Yeah, I mean he's been a Jet for my lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The locker room thing is like, I know it's important. I get it. I just get those questions aren't that as interesting to me, but I understand why people ask them.
Well, it's also just hard to talk about because it's impossible for us to have any idea what's going on in there. Yeah. Like until there's major leaks going on from unhappy players, it's impossible to know what's going on. Mm-hmm. And like, hey, you see teams around the league where that is the case, and you know how bad things are getting in the locker room. And thank goodness that's almost never the Packers. We listed the 2 occasions in the Matt LaFleur era where you'd say that was the case, and for both of them, it was the final half a season under a lame duck defensive coordinator who you knew wasn't going to be back, who none of the fan base really wanted to have back his final season. And it just seemed like, hey, maybe for financial reasons, they're keeping him around for one final year. Maybe he'll turn things around. And you saw the players clearly having frustration with the fact that they felt like it was a wasted year because they didn't like, working under this defensive coordinator. Can you really be that annoyed with them? Brian says Marty Bennett knows what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. The San Francisco game, I don't know. Like, I guess youth must not be an excuse then, which is fine. I guess it doesn't have to be. I mean, yes, the Bears game, sure. Does Matt LaFleur have a handle on everything as a head coach that you maybe want him to? I guess not. But also, why are they not getting over the hump? I see comments about the 21-year-old millionaires. I think that's a pretty weak one considering every team is bringing in 21-year-old millionaires every year.
Yeah, show me the team is not.
Why would that change via team? That would come down to which 21-year-old millionaire are you drafting? That's a front office scouting issue then. Because again, there's plenty of those guys that are doing a great job and really not having any problems. So if that's
show me an NFL team
I'm not worried about
that places more emphasis on character than the Green Bay Packers do when it comes to scouting draft talent.
There's probably one out there that I'm not thinking of. but I mean they're certainly up there.
It ain't the Chiefs
No.
who keep winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl.
No.
Not the Eagles.
It's not. No.
If it's a team out there, it's got to be like the Ravens or something. I mean,
they just brought in Mike Green. They just drafted Mike Green, so
I don't know who it could be.
I don't know. Maybe Detroit.
Indy cares. Indy cares.
Tampa Bay.
Did you
perhaps
just say Detroit? Detroit is like they're like the poster child for let's bring in mean guys and play dirty. You don't think so?
Okay? So you're saying mean is like a bad character trait, then I guess for context.
Well, I mean, the Packers are certainly allergic to bringing in mean guys,
or like bad character, because I think those are two very different conversations. Personally, of like this guy.
Do you think it's unfair to say that
has
Jameson Williams had character concerns?
I don't know.
Coming into the draft,
what were they?
I don't
even remember that. See, I feel like. I mean, that was said about Nolan. We never figured out what that was. We still don't know. Like, to me, like the character stuff is like stuff that's clearly been like reported and written down, and like have like Devontae Wyatt had a couple of them.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
Right. Carter, obviously, for Philly. Right. So, yeah, I guess there's a difference between, like the Lions actually turning out to bring out like kneecap biters versus like guys who have, SA allegations and domestic stuff that are like out there, like, Bond.
Fair. That's a huge,
so, yeah,
huge difference
I guess,
there. I'll give you that.
So I guess if you're going like, if you want to say like, truly like guys like that are like not either of those. Yeah, that's Tampa Bay.
I mean, Tampa Bay, like they had Antonio Brown, like
Arians
immediately
did.
Where he went as soon as the Patriots dropped him for his legal problems.
But again, who was truly running the show when that was going on? That seems like
they also had
right.
What's the Detroit guy, the defensive end from Detroit? He went to Tampa that year.
Defensive end.
Just a trillion personal fouls in Detroit. They constantly. The heck was his name? Yeah, help me out. What's the
defensive end?
What the heck am I thinking of?
Defensive end.
I'm on Pro Football Reference. Players who play for Detroit and Tampa. And now I can sue.
Oh. Defensive tackle. Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was like defensive end. I couldn't.
No, in my head, I was trying to think of a defensive end, but it was definitely Stu. That's definitely who I was thinking.
I gotcha. Where were we? I don't even remember.
We were trying to, we got way derailed just trying to think of who values character in their players more than the Packers too. I would say like maybe Indy is in the mix there. Indy, Houston.
Yeah.
TJ Lang untied Sue's shoes. That's true. And Aiden Hutchinson untied J.K. Dobbins' shoe in college.
It's true.
That was hilarious.
That's true.
That was my favorite memory from that game.
Yeah,
Two sack celebrations and stomp.
I guess. Yeah, I don't know. To me, like the getting over the hump conversation is more about like the talent acquisition than anything else. Of like, how do you feel about the pass rush right now? Like, how does everyone feel about it? Like, they didn't do a lot to, I mean, 3 swings on day 3, I guess. But like, if it felt like, couple premium spots, do they do enough, right? Like that seems, I think, maybe more of the question rather than that. But
well, yeah, well, like how would you rank the biggest holes that you see on the roster? Like I would certainly have to start with defensive line, and then like for me, defensive end is not far behind it, honestly.
Yeah. I think that's got to be where it starts, and obviously corner would be if Ja wasn't. We kind of already covered that, so it less so, but. Yeah, I mean, after
have we had a fair conversation on this channel about the cornerback depth with Ja in the mix? You got Ja and Hobbs.
I think so.
And Valentine and Nixon. And that is the complete list of cornerbacks on the roster, basically. Like, when we put together our 53, we had Micah Robinson as our CB5.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So Kalen King is still around. We got Jonathan Baldwin. Who else we even have on the roster? Isaiah Dunn. I think we released Kamal Haddon a couple days ago, or maybe that was Caleb Hayes we released. One of the two. I think it was Caleb Hayes. There's a guy named Tyron Herring who was a UDFA this year. I mean, it's freaking thin at cornerback. I'm like, even with Ja in the mix, I'm pretty darn scared about just the depth. Like, yeah. I want a better CB5 than we have. I really don't mind the 4 that we have. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, Caleb Hayes was the guy we released. I don't mind the top 4. I don't know that I think Nate Hobbs is that good of a football player. I mean, you and I have gone back and forth on this a couple times. I'm not here to relitigate that one. No, he's probably at a minimum he's fine as your CB2, and I should not be worried about that. Valentine and Nixon, happy to have them as your CB3 and CB4. Like your top 4, you're not going to find a lot of teams in the NFC with a better DB room than that. And I think in the division we've got the best DB room. I'm not too nervous about that. Honestly, I would put Chicago as the second best, or maybe they're a little bit better than us in the DB, total DB package. But I don't like our depth. I really don't, because you get one preseason injury. Maybe it's Ja. The Packers have had a lot of concerns about him staying healthy. I'm like, what the heck was their plan if they didn't bring Ja back? You got Nate Hobbs, Valentine, and Nixon, and nobody else. You got 3 cornerbacks in the roster because they weren't going to bring somebody else in. I can tell you that. I know this front office.
They weren't good.
This front office at this point in the year was not bringing somebody else in.
They weren't going
to go dumpster diving for another Rasul Douglas.
Yeah, they're not going to be looking at like Jalen Ramsey like some teams are right now. Like, there's no question they weren't doing that. So I don't know. It was definitely, again, strange. It was offense to start, where it was kind of like, okay, well, what's the plan at corner? What's the plan along the defensive line? And it kind of seems to be like, well, it's the guys we have. That's our plan, and it's like that could work. The development track stuff does
strategy,
work, but
when you look at how the weakness last year was not the defense, it was the offense, and the front office is clearly still in a situation, even having paid Jordan Love, where they are looking to get answers and to maximize Jordan Love's opportunities. Like, that's clearly where their head is at right now. And I don't have a problem with that. I agree. You need to solidify this offense. And if you build a good offense, that can just stick around together for a very long time. The litany of examples in the NFL of offenses that it's just the same, like 8 or 9 guys who stick around for forever. Maybe you cycle a guard in and out, whatever. Maybe you're wide receiver 2. But you just got this core group of offensive players who sticks around for 6+ years, right? And the defense is really a year-by-year project. And I'm fine with prioritizing fixing the offense first, since it is a problem, and you're not going to fix a permanent defense into place. I'm fine with that strategy. But I also really question if we have the horses in the stable to, like, especially with how many corners we lost this offseason, it's just bonkers to me that there was no plan in place to replace any of them. We lost Ballantyne and Stokes and one other guy. I've drawn a blank on who it was. And, any one of those guys you could, in a vacuum, look at and say, you'll be fine without him. But then losing, all of them with no plan. Nate Hobbs and Mike Robinson, the only guys who brought in. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit here and say, we got a 7th-round pick. That's not an addition. Yeah. It's not. It's a lottery pick. Nate Hobbs, sure. So is Nate Hobbs going to fully replace all 3 guys that we lost in the offseason? I don't like that plan. That just leaves you so thin.
Nate Hobbs,
just from a numbers standpoint. I'm not talking about
Nate Hobbs and Micah Robinson.
I'm not talking about how good Hobbs is. I'm talking about from a numbers standpoint.
No, I know. Yeah, I mean, it is truly you're only as good as your third corner, and whoever you pick as Green Bay's third corner, I don't know, man. Just
between Nixon and Valentine.
Yeah, it's kind of I don't know. Yeah, that's where it's kind of again, the golden thing was a lot of fun. It was very cool, and the way Murphy did it was awesome. And yeah, that was an all-time moment in a Packers draft history, which we'll look back on fondly. The moment, no matter the result, but would I feel a lot better right now knowing my 3 starting corners are Nate Hobbs, and Trey Amos? Yeah. I would feel a lot better. And it's then kind of if you're, if you got concerns about the pass rush, secondary play might be good enough to, give yourself a few more opportunities, maybe a couple opportunities per game of getting home, because the coverage is so good. And it's wow, look back into that defense with Trey Amos, and it looks pretty good, my friends. That, I would certainly feel better about that. And I know.
Is this a Savion Williams conversation, or is it an Anthony Dalton conversation?
Probably a Savion conversation. But again, by round 3, who you like at corner, and also who fits, who the Packers feel fits them, because I know Noel certainly we liked him. Wasn't very big. The arm length obviously was the question. Parrish was never going to be in consideration, right? He's a very small slot type of corner. So yeah, it was a tough draft for it to happen.
Trey Amos went after we took Belton.
59th, yeah.
And then the next cornerbacks off the board were Darian Porter at 68.
Yeah.
Zaire Thomas at 73.
Right.
Savon Revel at 76. Then there was Justin
Revel
Wally
was maybe
at 80.
The one. Yeah, Wally was a pretty small guy as well.
And then there were size. 2 more. So Jacob Parrish and Noel Williams went right before Savion. And I think that you and I think we're both kind of expecting Noel to be the pick there in that 3rd round. Were you expecting that? I was expecting that.
Kinda, but also again this maybe the concerns with some of the thresholds he was hitting, but talent wise, yes. Talent wise, yes. I know.
Which frankly, we need a slot.
Yeah, I mean, too old for this.
Is the 3rd round too rich for them to take a slot?
No, definitely not. Listen, that's too old for this. Has got it. You know what I'm saying? That. Yes, certainly would be nice. Of course. Yeah, that one's gonna hurt for a while, I think.
Add it to the list.
Because man, he is. God, I remember doing the video when I did the video of him and it published late November, early December, and he was cooking already. And then watching what happened after that, again, pick 6, I'm not that concerned about. That was a terrible decision, whatever. Not pick 6, no, notwithstanding. The couple of the Rams games, he is just smothering their top options. It is really, really good. Where was I? I was up here. Oh, we can get to that too, but I have not seen that. Brian's asking, have we seen the podcast that Cooper DeJean started?
No, I didn't know.
Not.
I don't.
Mm-mm.
I could not list for you a single player podcast that I watch. I think I tuned into like 3 minutes of AJ Dillon's podcast that he did with his brother-in-law just for grins. I cannot think of a single player podcast I've ever.
I can name one, I think.
Oh, who's that Eagles cornerback? His name begins with a D. I don't even know. I don't know if he's still with the Eagles.
Oh, Darius Slay.
Darius Slay. So he had a podcast. I listened to an episode where he spent like 3/4 of it talking about Jordan Love. So I tuned in because he had played against Jordan Love. So I was curious what he thought.
That's right. Yeah. I've listened to Chris Long on Greenlight. Interesting. A lot of great stuff about like both sides of the line and how they play, which I think is really good. They have their own like kind of, more fun episodes that I think, I think draw people in for sure. But I really like hearing him talk with offensive linemen about, all that goes into playing the position. So
that never gets old. I could listen to offensive linemen talk all day.
Some of his episodes are super, super good to listen to. So
honestly, offensive line and quarterback are I would say the only two positions that are at all interesting to me to hear them talk about football. Like, there's no position on defense, like even the safeties. Yeah, I guess if I had to pick one, it would be the safeties. But nobody else on defense is that interesting to hear talk about. And then the wide receivers, it's just, the bubble that the wide receivers live in on offense is so weird to me because like. Okay, pick any of the, offensive linemen, or maybe, like a defensive end occasionally. One of these guys who knows where everybody is at on the field at all times. And like the wide receiver, usually when they're talking about football, it's like they don't register that other positions even exist on the field. It's just, hey, what am I doing? And what's the quarterback doing? And that's it. It's just interesting, just the.
Yeah, that's true.
Wolf that says, for the most part, players aren't good at podcasts, in my opinion. Thank goodness, because otherwise we'd be out of a job, right? All right, we have one thing on them, right? We can't play football. We may not know the schemes the way they do, but gosh darn it, we can talk into a mic and sound good while we do it. Yeah.
How the podcast flows, what the agenda is, all of that. We're lucky they haven't figured that out yet.
Right. Right.
Truly, yeah.
Well, that's like okay, so sometimes you hear politicians will want to weigh in on football, especially college football. You get like senators and whatnot. They'll want to weigh in on college football.
Some of them have done both, funny enough.
Sure.
One particular one in the Southeast who's an interesting fella, to say the least.
But you listen to them, when the few times a year when it's just obvious that what they really want is to be podcasters, and it's like, listen, tell you what, you come on here,
be sick to focus.
You can have my show for a day. You can podcast your heart out for a day. Let me go try and solve some of the world's problems.
Yeah, that'd be great, honestly.
And instead of
why don't you twiddle your thumbs over here, bro?
Instead of sponsoring stupid bills to legislate, what times of day college football games can be played in your home state, how about you let me get in there? And I think I can do more in one day than you're going to do in a month. And you can eat your heart out talking into a microphone about college football.
Yeah, no question. No question.
Who was the O-lineman we had? We meaning the Packers that quit to pursue TikTok? Yeah. I don't remember this at all. I remember Blake Martinez becoming a full-time like Pokemon card eBay seller or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bruce said, "Is that I don't know. I feel like I know how to pronounce that, but I don't know what it is in so I don't want to say it out loud.
Is it yerba? Is it yerba mate?
Is that sounds like a person's name?
It does.
Yerba mate. I'm gonna Google this. Yerba mate is tea. Caffeine from coffee. Interesting. Theobromine found in chocolate and polyphenols. Interesting. Nope, this is Redacted Energy. They don't sponsor us, so we don't say their name on the show.
Yes.
What brand of Redacted Energy are you drinking? Or what flavor of Redacted are you drinking?
It's actually not energy. It's just straight up cold brew coffee. Nothing
cold brew
else.
Coffee.
Just nothing else in there. Cold brew coffee. That's it. Well, and water, obviously.
I like to put
brand.
like a sugar-free hazelnut syrup, even like an unsweetened hazelnut syrup in my coffee.
Yeah.
I don't need the sweetness, but I like the nuttiness from the hazelnut.
If I make like a latte with like espresso, I'll put in a little like vanilla syrup. But I'm very particular about the syrup, so.
Sure. Yeah, no, you can't go wrong with vanilla. Me and a couple friends were having this debate last night.
This is just coffee.
It turned out it was really polarizing. Half the people came down on the side of pro hazelnut, and the other side couldn't stand hazelnut. Where do you stand on hazelnut?
I'm in.
Okay.
I'm on the hazelnut side, for sure. I like it.
And
even,
Nutella.
As you said, even from a...
You're pro Nutella?
Smell, taste perspective. Yeah. Yeah, I probably not as much, because I just know, like, oh yeah, this is a lot of chocolate and sugar here. It's like, but like hazelnut and coffee, I'm very in on that. So
yeah, I feel like hazelnut, the hazelnut fad exploded. I feel like around the time that you and I were, not quite 10. Like I remember that's when my parents just started drinking it like crazy.
That was like, oh, this flavor should have been in here the whole time.
It was so trendy. Speaking of trendy, Trendy Jones is the guy that Tool for this was thinking of.
Nice.
Look at you, Tool for this.
Okay. I think we should get to Bruce's question, and I have a question as well after we do Bruce's.
Ooh, you don't ask a ton of questions on here, so I'm excited. You should ask more questions because I love your questions.
Okay.
But I don't want to answer this question. I want you to answer this question because I don't know that I'm going to have an intelligent answer to this one. So I'm going to sit down so I don't hurt myself.
Okay. Bruce,
because frankly, like I didn't have a problem with their pressures last year, to be honest.
No. And Bruce is asking how will Green Bay create pressure? I think for one, I think a lot of people didn't like the pass rush production from Van Ness and Gary. And the problem is
never liked Gary's production ever because he gets pressures and not sacks, and it pisses off the fans because pressures are useless and only sacks matter. Because 8 plays a year is what determines whether you're a good player or not.
Yeah. So I don't know if Green Bay was unintentionally kind of ahead of the curve on getting back to this brand of football where we're at. But like the big 260, 270 pound edge rushers for the 3-4 was kind of hilarious to watch. But when you go to the 4-3, it's kind of like, oh, we're better defending the run. Oh, well, why could that be? Well, because you have 2 guys who can set the edge because they're huge. San Francisco didn't go drafting Michael Williams and 2 nose tackles, one who could maybe moonlight a little bit more in West for no reason. They know what's going on. Philly, Detroit, they're running the football. You have to have big bodies up front and setting the edge. So that is going to be part of it. Like they're playing run first, and then they got to transition to pass. And I think it's fair to question: do they have the right guys to do that? Right? Is Van Ness the guy to set the edge, set a tough edge early, and then be able to spring into an attack and a plan as a pass rusher? Maybe. I think that's a valid question, and I think it's going to get answered this year, right? But they have that in place because of where the league is going, and Hafley going to the 4-3s will certainly help that. Clearly, last year it wasn't as like, oh my gosh, when is the run defense? Like it was much better. And that wasn't even, I don't think, with necessarily the best personnel on the interior per se. So I do think though, when how they're going to create pressure is getting into the pressure situations, right? Based on how the base personnel is working against the run. That's how, that's how everything is going to work now. They want to be in a position, Green Bay, when they can send all the exotic stuff. Who's coming, who's not. Like, is Gary going to drop? Is Gary going to sit over the nose tackle? Is Edgerrin Cooper going to be the A or B gap, right? But also having, getting into the obvious situations where Colin Oliver can come in and make plays as a rusher, right? Bending the edge, right? That's all set up because of how they're structured on early downs with the, bigger edge rushers to take it to get them into those situations. So I do think that Cooper is going to be heavily involved and Walker is going to be heavily involved with a lot of the pressure stuff. But yes, Wyatt is obviously going to be a big part of that as well, of course, because when he's healthy, it looks like he is the guy. Picking up that fifth-year option was no accident, right? They didn't actually click that and send that to the league office. No, they see it with Wyatt at the 3 tech. So again, it's just going to be, is somebody else going to step up along the defensive line? And is Van Ness going to step up? Because I think that Van Ness is going to be, at the very least, giving them enough on early downs to go, yeah, no, he's affecting the run. He is doing what he is doing what they're asking him to do on early downs. And then it's like, okay, Kingsley, Colin Oliver, Sorrell, right? I think Sorrell could be even, in a position to be, a devastating presence when they get into some rush looks like this, where they can again, bring in the hockey line that's, hey, this is the power play hockey line. We're going to get after it with some of these cats. So I do think they're still going to be exotic. I think it's going to, have the idea of confusion at the line of scrimmage because they have really, really tremendous athletes at linebacker and, as these situational rushers. I think it's going to come from that. And it's going to come from, guys like Gary and guys like Wyatt getting their own wins and hopefully Van Ness in year 3. I don't think much of that is going to change. Now, it would certainly be nice on every instance to get home with 4. And maybe that's going to happen on some third downs because of who you've kind of added a little bit of a different flavor to the room. So perhaps, you have situations where it's just, Oliver is doing what, Green Bay was hoping he would do, and Wyatt is doing exactly what Green Bay had always hoped he would do as well. So, yeah, I don't think it may be a long-winded answer of just kind of saying it's probably going to be pretty similar as to how they do it. Just because, again, of how the defense is set up, right? When you're playing Detroit, it's not kind of like, hey, let's get into a 3-4 where, we have these guys flying off of the edge and like 7 and wide 9 stuff where it's like, oh no, those get nudged out of the club immediately. Just way out of the way by Sewell or Decker, right? No, they need to match up front early against pick a team. Pick a team who, is going to contend in the NFC. Like as you may think the running back room is, like Washington ran the ball pretty well last year for his being kind of a, you could say the Kingsbury offense.
Washington's running back room is meh?
Yeah. I don't think it's like, okay. Eckler doesn't have the gear. Robinson's fine, but like,
yeah,
they were able to run it well because they had the the human 100-yard dash at QB, of course, but because of how they were spread out and because of all the stuff they ran, they were able to do it. Philly's going to smash your face in. So is Detroit. The Rams will as well. They're not going to just get away from it, right? Because they have Adams and Puka. They understand Puka's going to be a part of the run game. San Francisco's not getting away from it. McCaffrey back healthy, they're going to run. No question. They brought Juszczyk back after cutting him. They understand as well. So think of an NFC team, who you think is going to contend, like Minnesota. Same thing. They're probably going to take as much off of McCarthy's play as they can. Chicago, I know they didn't really get to add anybody. Thank goodness they didn't add Travion Henderson to their team, but they did bring Manun guy in, and I do think that's going to be a part of it. They're going to be under center with Ben Johnson. So just name a team, and they're probably going to be under center. You have to be able to defend that first and then get into your rush bag, which I think Hafley will do at a very high level. He was very clearly involved with like, hey, can you get me a Colin Oliver? Can you get me a Sorrell? Like guys who can, change that hockey line in and get after the QB when called upon. So
Can I ask you a really stupid question?
Fun. Sure. You can ask any question you like.
What kind of realistic ability do we have to run a 3-4 front out there for a game or for a series? Like, how hard is that really? Like, I feel like the answer is you just can't and don't.
It would be a lot of, assignments are different, and for guys who aren't comfortable and who haven't done any of it. Like Van Ness and Gary have done it, right? Guys who have been there a while have done it.
Most of our defense has done it.
Yeah, they have. And so could they do it? Sure. How are they aligning? That's interesting. I'm thinking about how the base would look. I mean, Gary's been a 3-4 outside linebacker, I guess, so you could still do it. Maybe you're having Van Ness be a 3-4 end. I don't know. Gives the opportunity to put, Enigbari
3-4 end for Van Ness is not too far off, though. Like, you look at how he was used in Iowa. Like, they moved him all over the place. He played a lot of snaps at defensive tackle for the Hawkeyes.
They did. He did do some of that, especially when they just kind of like were asking him to attack a single gap essentially and disrupt stuff from the word go. I mean, it's possible with TJ
Watt lines up at defensive tackle for the Steelers all the time too.
Yeah, when you get into those creative looks of like, hey, we can take advantage of a matchup here and there. But yes, on base stuff when they're, it's 1st and 10, we got 5 guys down linemen, the Matt LaFleur fun conversation about that. And all the folks who thought like 2 down linemen last year was very funny. Anyway, I mean, Clark playing nose, I guess. Brinson's his backup probably. Got Brooks, Van Ness, Wyatt all doing the 3-4 end thing. That's kind of hurt. That would hurt for me in terms of Devontae Wyatt. That would kind of suck. Just in terms of what I think he does extremely well. Wouldn't quite suit him, but I'm sure he could, handle it with as good of a mover as he is. But
well, why wouldn't Wyatt have a role? I mean, number one, Georgia runs a 3-4. Number two, he was in Green Bay when we ran a 3-4. Like, why couldn't he have a role in a package like that? And again, I prefaced all this by saying it was a stupid question, but
I mean, in theory, with the group you have, you could probably do it. Again, it's just this week we're doing this. All right, guys, get in the room. We gotta chat about all these principles and all that stuff, and what Hafley would potentially want to see, right? Like in terms of how guys play as well. So it would be a lot to do in a single week. Maybe it's a bye week thing, But I don't know. Green Bay has enough problems out of the bye week that maybe we're playing a different scheme this week might not be the best approach. But I do think they have enough personnel to probably handle it. I don't think. Again, guys will be playing pseudo different spots. A few of them would, but they still have a decent range of body types now, especially with Sorrell and Oliver coming into the room of like, yeah, okay, we can do a little bit of this and that. But I do think, again, the 4-3 just sets up nicely because of where the rest of the NFC and obviously several in the AFC are going in terms of how offense is going to be structured. It is nice to have, Gary and Van Ness defending the run on the edge on early downs, but it is interesting.
So you had a question you wanted to ask, but before we do that,
yes.
Can I do an ad break?
An ad break?
Yeah, they're not. It's not a paying sponsor, but it's
okay.
So
pay the bills.
Permission?
Yeah, pay the bills.
Okay, this is
do it.
It's gonna pay the bills. All right. So listen, I built something. So this X account. Packers_alerts. All right. I built this. You get all your Packers news right here. I actually got a bunch of them for a bunch of different teams. So if there's a college team that you would really like, drop it in the chat here and tell me who you'd like. It may already exist. So let me know because I can give you the handle. But turn on notifications for Packers_alerts. It's all the Packers news. 100% of it. I'm still improving it a bit. It is a robot. I'm still improving it a bit because sometimes the wording on some of the tweets is a little clunky. All right, but I'm ironing it out. It's only been around for like 3 years. 3 days. 3 years.
It's only been around for 3 years, guys. Chill.
Toolfist wants UConn, and Brian Maffey wants Delaware State. Yeah, I don't have either one of those. I will try and get to
State alerts.
Try and get those eventually.
That would be incredible.
You know, maybe Brian. Maybe the Delaware State one is only going to post like once a day instead of every couple hours. So there you go. Jake, thanks for humoring me and letting me promo Packers_alerts on X.
Yeah.
All right. Hit me with your interesting question.
Okay. So, it's a long weekend.
It was a long weekend.
Did you see Mission Impossible final?
Yeah, I did.
All right.
Yeah, I drove.
I know I drove
almost 2 hours to go see it in IMAX because I live out in the boonies. I live in the sticks. We do have a theater in town. It's just there's no IMAX. You got to drive, like I said, almost 2 hours to get to IMAX. So we did go see it in IMAX. I was really excited to see the trailer for the new Naked Gun reboot.
Oh, yeah.
That looks super good.
That's right.
Tool for this ask, what did you see? I saw Muffy. Did you guys see Moana? Yeah, when are they coming out with the live action Moana? They keep teasing us with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've seen Moana and Moana too because my daughter is obsessed with Moana. But yeah, Mission Impossible, Final Reckoning. So, Jake, I want to hear your thoughts on it. I want to hear your like star rating. Like, give me your out of 5 stars. How would you rate it?
Okay.
And then I think we need to do a full rank of all 9 movies. Is it 9? 8 movies? All 8 movies.
Yeah.
We need to do a ranking of all 8 movies and compare our lists.
Yeah, again, initial thoughts because I've only seen it once, and I'd like to see it a couple times, kind of let it sink in. I will say, yes, IMAX is worth it. I remember seeing the 5th one, Rogue Nation, in IMAX.
Yeah,
that is it's tough to beat that theater experience. There are a couple theater experiences that are maybe top it just because a certain cinematic universe kind of built to 2 big movies at the end of kind of its saga that I would say were maybe better, but it's probably on the podium. No, I thought it was very, very good.
Harry Potter belongs up there too.
Brian is now blocked from the channel.
Yeah, hold on.
For good.
I'm taking that comment off the screen.
He will be removed for good. Maybe Brian will find a channel that loves The Last Jedi.
Maybe Brian will find Jesus. You need some Jesus in your life, Brian. You're going to slander Mission Impossible like that.
Yeah, no, I think maybe
You're impossible, Brian.
Maybe the callbacks were too much, I guess, is some people's biggest critique. I don't know. I liked it more than 7 personally.
Really?
Maybe because 7. I don't know. It's very interesting. The Rotten Tomatoes rankings have 7 over 5, which I think is absolute blasphemy. But I thought maybe just because 7 felt like a part 1, like a true it was like okay. And
yeah, but it didn't.
Part 1
feel it didn't end on a cliffhanger, though. That's the thing.
No,
it was a satisfying
end.
It
did. It just felt it. Yeah, but it still was like okay. Well, we're gonna get that resolution, in the next one. But I think again the stunts were unbelievable. I mean, the spoilers, but the sub sequence. Did not think it was going to be that long. Very impressed that they made it that long. It was
insane.
I was kind of like, wow, they're still going with this. That's pretty wild.
Well, and
obviously
when
the
you
biplane
said
stuff was nuts, but
when you said stunts, my mind first went to the biplane. I didn't think.
oh
I didn't
yeah,
think
no,
of
that
the
was
sub at
that
first.
was next level. I think for the sub it was just kind of the length of stuff, and when just like okay, there's some things where they've kind of just like now they got here right. There's a certain one like of 3 which kind of actually somehow they tied into this, which I actually love the fact that they tied it in. They didn't leave us hanging for all time of what the rabbit's foot was. Heck yes. The fact that they were able to tie that in is so good.
You didn't feel like it was retconned a little bit with the fact that it was now very totally different.
I mean, to me, like, I don't think it's like implausible of like, oh yeah, this is a biohazard, quote unquote. Like, if it was that, I would probably label it as that too. Of like, oh, it's just kind of a biohazard thing. We have those, like that type of thing. But I mean, Benji did get to kind of, restate what he said in that movie, which I think was, a really nice tie-in. So no, I liked it. I thought it was great. Obviously the kind of reveal that about, Carrie Ellis's character, which again, I thought he did a tremendous job. He wasn't given a ton, obviously, even in 7, but like really like that. As you said, the stunts were great. The biplane stuff was insane. And just already seeing that, like, no, like he's obviously not hanging by himself. There are ropes and all that, and he's tied in to do some of that stuff. But just seeing some of that was beforehand is just kind of like, oh man, they're going all out for this. The new team is sick. I know, evidently we're not getting them right. Tom did say it was final for a reason, which kind of stinks.
Well, okay, but hold on a second. Spoilers, right? Spoilers.
Yeah.
The filmmakers completely chickened out at the end by not enforcing the fact that it would have to be the last one. There's no reason at all you couldn't make another one now.
Oh yeah,
even though the entire time they were leading you to think like, hey, every single person in this whole story is gonna be dead by the end of this movie. You get to the end and you're
we were very close on 2 accounts. We got one. Yeah. We were very close on 2 others. I do think I was. Were you expecting Ethan to not make it?
I went into the movie expecting him to not make it.
That's what I thought as well, because I think that Benji making it didn't surprise me at the end, honestly, because he said to him twice, "This is your team." So it felt like he was going to be fine at the end. I think that's what kind of did it for me of like, I'm not sure I'm falling for this.
In 7, they were leaving the breadcrumbs hardcore of hey, Benji is going to die.
Kittredge narration over Benji because they kept, And
with the fake bomb that was just the psych test.
Yes.
That asked Benji, like, what do you fear the most?
Yeah.
Or no, what do you love the most? That's what it is. What do you love the most? And he said, my friends.
Yeah.
And so, like, obviously they were, like, hinting hard, like, okay, he's going to have a choice to make, and he's going to choose his friends, right?
Yeah.
I didn't love the movie.
Okay.
There were some things about it that surprised me that I really liked. All right. Angela Bassett as the president.
Yes.
She was fantastic.
Yes, absolutely.
My buddy that we saw the movie together, he did not think that Nick Offerman was well cast as that general. And I thought that I'm drawing a blank on her name. The gal from Ted Lasso.
Oh, Hannah Waddington?
Hannah? Yeah.
I think, right?
So Waddington, yeah. Hannah Waddington. I had a little bit of a hard time taking her seriously because she's supposed to be this American general, but she's a British accent. Yeah. Like the actress does. And her American accent was fine. I just had a hard time taking her seriously because of that. Mm-hmm. But
I did Trammell Tillman as the sub commander.
Was he the sub commander? Oh my gosh, he killed it.
So good.
Had the best line in the entire movie.
Yes, he was so
Oh, he was so good. And
Very impressed.
I basically liked everybody on the sub. I thought they were all really good.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah,
think
I really
think
enjoyed that.
some areas where it fell flat for me a little bit. So Gabriel was really easy to hate in 7. And then in 8, he just, to me, never seemed menacing at all. And this movie, in contrast with some other Mission Impossible movies, never managed to get me like on the edge of my seat, like scared of what was going to happen to anybody. So I was surprised about that.
I guess, yeah. I don't know if that's just like, well, we've been around this merry-go-round like 19 times and like we know.
I think it was the pacing and the editing.
Maybe.
Like
it just seemed
and just the fact that none of the characters that you really loved about seemed like they were feeling any fear outside of what's Haley Atwell's character's name?
Grace.
Betty or Grace, yeah.
Yeah.
Like she got scared at times, but her fear seemed like it was coming from a place of like inexperience in this world that
for sure
the other characters all live in.
Yeah.
But like Ethan was never scared.
No.
And he's been scared
Angela
in the past.
Bassett.
Like in
Angela
3,
Bassett's range of emotion.
Yeah.
From the fear included was very, very well done. Like that was.
Yeah, she was one of the best actors in.
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure.
So,
for sure.
Are you prepared to do a ranking and rating of all?
Maybe,
8 films?
but again, I would like to see it another time to kind of cement it. But I do feel like I can make one. Yes.
Okay.
Do
you need me
to
give you a minute
this? No. I just this is I think the big thing. If Tom isn't going to do anymore, can they still do it?
I would say yeah, but they have to nail the casting and like obviously they already tried with Jeremy Renner.
Yeah, someone has
Jeremy
to do
Renner,
all this.
The attempt to cast perfect. Jeremy Renner, to me, kind of shakes some of my faith in their ability to find the next guy. Like
it's a tough.
They have to James Bond it. Is what they have to do. And I also think that you can't have another Ethan Hunt. It's got to be somebody else. But the point being, there has never been a bad actor for James Bond. There's some people who don't like George Lazenby, whatever. There's a few people who don't like Daniel Craig just because he's new, but like the point is they've never not killed it with the casting other than Lazenby.
Yeah, it's more a story.
And some people, including myself, do enjoy Lazenby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's more of a story plot direction. I feel like that falls flat rather than, I agree with that for sure. Yeah, all right, it's just a question of who's going to take over. Like, if somebody's going to take up that, like, who's going to do it? Like, who's going to be like, I'm all in on this stunt thing. Like, I will do everything like this. It's a tough sell. It is. Period. Right? We're doing Halo jumps. We're learning to fly a helicopter so we can fly the helicopter. Right? Like we're taking a bike off of a giant mountain / fjord type of thing. Like we're gonna do that. Like he did it 5-6 times. I don't know. I don't know who's doing that. Like hanging off of a plane in this one and 5. Like who's doing it? Who's climbing the Burj? I would never. You couldn't pay me to climb the Burj like that. No, not doing it.
And Tom does it because he wants to. That's the thing.
Gosh, 100%. And there's a picture of him sitting at the top from back then filming it. Like, okay.
Yep.
Like you have to be
barefoot.
Barefoot
and everything. Yeah.
All in. And so do I think what's his name? Who plays Degas? Oh my gosh, I'm losing it.
Plays what?
They call him Tarzan. I know they call him that. But like him, Pom Klementieff is awesome. She could stick around, but I don't know who's taking the mantle. That's really the question. I mean, if Tom wants to go again, I do think though. I know you're saying Gabriel was kind of not as menacing. I don't know if like Gabriel was supposed to seem more menacing at the beginning and let the entity take over as kind of the menacing, like trying to
And
balance
frankly,
that as the true like menacing thing. I feel like
maybe this is part of where it fell flat for me too, is that in 7, the entity was not only menacing, it was terrifying because you could see the full brunt of its power all the time. And in 8, that power was only just implied. Like you heard, like, oh, it's taking over this country. Oh, it's taking over these nuclear silos, whatever. And you're watching it, you're like, okay, first of all, why is it taking so long? Because you already cracked, 3/4 of them. Why is it taking you so long to get these last 3? Because aren't you this all-powerful computer that has already taken over the whole rest of the world? Why is this the last thing that you can't possibly crack? And meanwhile, you're so busy doing that you also can't be bothered to go mess things up for them in any other part of their mission. Like you're not causing problems for them with traffic cameras and like I get that they're trying to go analog as much as possible, but they were not analog the entire movie. They were relying on electronics a lot of the movie. And the entity was not trying to mess with them in the way that it was in 7. Like when it was spoofing Benji in 7, that was terrifying.
It was, yes.
And that was the first and last time we ever saw that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's fair. I think like nuclear reset was kind of like the next step up. But yeah, I get that where it maybe falls flat because it's not doing the little things that you really liked that it was doing from 7. 100%. Do I think that the nuclear codes and the governmental firewalls and everything that the cybersecurity team and the government would have in place would kind of be the final step? Like, yeah, I can get that. Would have been nice to maybe have more country POVs of the fear and terror of all of that, perhaps. Yeah, I think you could have.
That would have been so fun. Let's go inside Tel Aviv. Let's go inside Moscow.
Yeah, no, I think that's so much fun. Thing. Yeah, for sure. No,
and it would have afforded you
would have been nice
the opportunity to cast some more really interesting actors in those roles too. Mm-hmm. I would have loved to see who would they have cast as Israel's prime minister for this movie. That would have been so much fun to see. What do they do with that? Like honestly,
even the
Gal Gadot would be super fun. Gal Gadot would be super fun in that role.
Yeah, it would build a little more tension that way. I get it. There was a lot they were doing. The submarine sequence takes up a lot of the time. Would I have been okay if it was over 3 hours, 3 hours 10 minutes because you want to show all the country POVs? Yeah, I'm totally there. You're not going to hear me complaining if it's longer to show that. So yeah, I know there's always like a difficult, a difficulty in being like, okay, how much do we really want? If we're fast paced enough, but like, do we really want to make it super long? Like, what's the line of like, this is long enough versus not? I understand that a bit, but yes, I do think it could have had some of that for sure. But we
also thought there was a little bit of a missed opportunity to not do sharks or something when he was swimming down toward the submarine.
Yeah,
not that they even needed to attack him, but just to up the creepy factor a little bit. You get some of those Arctic sharks. That would have been
that's true.
That just would have been added an extra level of terror. That
I think you could have gone that route and then not always had the like, oh well, the submarine's going to roll off the cliff. Yeah, a little bit of balancing act could have been interesting, but once the pressure and I'm like, oh shoot, like this thing's going over. We are in dire straits.
I was also a little bit disappointed that he didn't suffer any lasting effect from all the decompression and everything. Yeah. The way that he did in Rogue Nation when he dies underwater, and then like it's massively affecting him for the next 15 minutes of the movie.
That was hysterical. It was a good time.
Oh, it was so funny. And Benji's like,
you sure okay to drive? Like, a minute ago you were dead. This is not going to end well. Yeah, super.
I was like, what are you talking about?
Sequence, yeah.
As though Benji's the crazy one.
And maybe that's again another pacing thing of like we want to build like the set pieces around the bigger stuff, and like we didn't get to see a lot of him. We did see a little bit in the compression chamber, right, but not a lot. and like not a lot after that either, even in the plane as they were going. So like, yeah, it's tough when you're like in the Arctic and there's not really anybody chasing you and to kind of build that. So yeah, it was definitely tougher in that regard. But I think maybe just because again, I think 5 is for me the best of like being able to build all that sequence together. But yeah, it's tough because you knew, I mean, South Africa had already come up early and you were like, well, you got to go there next. That's going to be next. Like, right. Like the south of Africa, sorry, not South Africa specifically, but like you kind of knew where the big spots were going to be. And it wasn't, well, we're not going to get the super chases necessarily. It's going to be, more tense military stuff and all of that. So I did like was kind of like, I guess that's maybe my own not seeing it coming, where of like, oh yeah, no, the U.S. government gets here in the cave just as we should have seen it coming of like, well, it's not going to be that simple, right? Type of thing. So that was,
it felt too easy.
The classic.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, they're just going to hand it to him. And then you go back and you go, oh wait, no, Kittredge mentioned to him of like, no, we're going to go do this. It was like, oh yeah, that's right, of course. But I did enjoy.
Can we rank them?
Yeah, let's do it.
I think what we need to do.
Okay.
We start with your last place ranking.
Sure.
And then
Easy.
we do it up through third place, and then we skip to first place, and then reveal the runner-up.
Okay. Perfect.
I know one of the awards shows or all the awards shows or something, they do it like that.
We're doing this like the college football playoff a little.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so if you get this first one wrong, then you get demoted from co-host to Brian Maffey.
Okay.
Okay, last place.
Yeah.
You gotta, for each of these, you gotta say which movie, and you have to give your star rating out of 5.
Oh man, out of 5? Okay.
Yeah.
I need to.
If you want to do it out of 10, you can do it out of 10, and I'll just double mine.
Okay. Yeah, I have thoughts out of 10, I think. Let me quickly.
That's fine. You do it out of 10. I'm gonna double all mine.
Okay. This is real entertaining part of the pod where everybody's building their rankings. I'm just gonna talk so we have a little something.
I have my rankings. I'm just waiting for you to get yours.
I'm tweaking the star. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I can start at the bottom. Like I know.
Yeah, start at the bottom. What do you got?
Okay. I mean, for me, Ghost Protocol is last. I'm just kidding.
Oh man! Holy crap! You made my
Once
heart
you said
stop.
that you needed to be this, or I'm demoting. I'm like, I have to play this joke. No,
that was cruel.
It's a second one for me. It's
the one that almost killed the franchise.
Yeah, John Woo coming in and kind of like, all right, we need this birds part at the end. This is a tough one to go back and see. Like I do like that 7 and 8 made the callback to Naya with like Grace as the kind of the thief element of the team, but this was, yeah. I mean, again, the villain maybe is more of maybe what you'd expect more in the Bond stuff of like it's not as calculating, still calculating, but more of like a brute force type of individual on top of it. I didn't mind some of the like the scene to go get the chimera that was in the building. I liked the stunts with all that. That was good, but yeah, it's definitely the flattest one for sure. Motorcycle chase, nice. We like that one. But yeah, it just
until the end of the motorcycle chase when they both jump off the bike and smack into each other in midair and then have a fist fight. It almost neutered the motorcycle chase that had just happened.
Yeah, that was kind of meh. But it was kind of like, okay, well, he's not the calculating type, so it's kind of like you kind of have to have this showdown with him. So yeah, villain, all of that stuff. I gave it
Anthony Hopkins as the director of IMF was maybe the one lone bright star in the whole movie. And then actually, out of all of the things that ever happened in the movie, the double mask reveal at the end, I
Yes.
don't hate as much. I don't hate it as much as I think a lot of people do, because it was at the very least interesting, and I don't think that the rest of the movie had that going for it of it being interesting. Um, you mentioned breaking in to steal the Chimera, the vents scene with the cables, that was interesting at least.
Yes. I enjoyed that. I did.
Completely non-menacing villain is the
Very
biggest
nice.
problem it has going for it.
Yes, very nice tense silence in that sequence as well. That worked well, but yeah, it was kind of yeah.
So my
I
star
feel like
rating
there are
out
like
of 10.
serious tears here, by the way. I think there's some serious tears going on for me at least. But what you got?
I guess I would say I really have 4 tears. Really just 3 tears. So my star rating out of 10 for MI2 is 2. It's 2 stars out of 10.
Okay. So a little
And
bit harsher.
that's not even grading it on a Mission Impossible curve. That is grading it on just a
That's
against
fair.
all movies. This is a truly terrible movie with no redeeming value whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, for all of the like things that are like some of the sequences that are built in it, again, my skill might look a little different just because based on where the top end is. I went 5. I think it's very clearly several steps below everything else. Like it is just kind of something where you could, if you're doing a rewatch, if you're going through these to set yourself up for this 8th one, like you don't have to do this. Like we could kind of we could tell you the tie-in of like the thief like very easily of like this is the throwback to that kind of setup. Like this is kind of that person that we have in this movie that's way amped up, way better. Again, nothing against Sandy Newton or anything. I just think it was kind of like a direction, production, just kind of like not maybe not the direction Tom necessarily wanted to go, and that's probably why he took kind of like sort of a co-lead down the stretch of these things. But yeah.
Well, there was 6 years gap between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Like this is the movie that just about killed the series.
Was it 5 years between 3 and 4? I think, right?
It was
5 or 6, something like that too.
I think it was. I think it was 4 or 5 years. I remember. I think it was in between 5 and 6 was the shortest gap. It was a 3-year gap. Was the shortest gap of any prior to part 1 and part 2 of Dead Reckoning.
Yeah.
So my next entry is Fallout.
Wow.
I give Fallout a 7.8 out of 10. There's a big jump from 2 to 7.8. This is not a bad movie, but compared to the other Mission Impossible entries, I feel like the only thing that Fallout has going for it is the stunts. I don't particularly enjoy the plot. Henry Cavill does not bring a lot to the movie, in my opinion. But the stunts and in particular the chase scenes. So you get very, very, very long motorcycle and car chases that are just excellent from beginning to end. It's like the best parts of the chase scenes from the Bourne movies without the shaky cam that annoys so many people, without all the hard jump cuts. You get all the raw, real driving and stunts that Tom Cruise is doing. That is just so much freaking fun to watch. And you do have some good fights. The bathroom fight scene with the, guy who's supposedly John Lark is really, really good. It's fun seeing both Henry Cavill and Tom Cruise get their butts kicked by this Asian guy. It's super, super fun. But as far as the plot goes, like this to me easily has the weakest plot out of any of the Mission Impossible movies, maybe even including MI2. Just the motivation of the bad guy of like, I want nuclear war. I want to wipe out the world. Why? I just do. Like, I don't really have a reason. I'm just a bad guy, and so I want it. just super weak to me. And like the only thing that carries the movie is just the interactions between the characters. Rebecca Ferguson again is just amazeballs, and these chase scenes and stunts are top notch. But I can't dive any deeper than just the character interactions, the set pieces, and the stunts, because the plot and even a lot of the dialogue just like falls really flat. I every time when Ethan is playing the role of John Lark to the White Widow, I get bored in that part of the movie every single time. It just, the movie slows down so much that if I'm trying to watch this late at night, like I struggle at that point in the movie to stay engaged.
All right. I have the first one next on mine. 7.9. I think it's again, I think it will, and we'll get to my next one, but if it weren't for Philip Seymour Hoffman in 3, I think this would be ahead of it. I just think the amount that he brings, not that John Voight's character was, I don't mind the mole inside the MI thing. And again, 7.9, that's, I would say, that's again, well above 2.
Yeah. You guys, again, we both have a big jump from our last place to second to last.
Because I think like it, you said it. I mean, that was the film that almost kind of just sent it packing. But yeah, obviously the wire scene and the fact that this wire scene and the actor in the wire scene ties into 8. Love that, by the way. But I love the wire scene. I think it did a nice job of like, yes, there is a stunt or a portion of a said stunt sequence that obviously is, you can tell how it looks of like, don't really buy. But the train, the high speed vehicle stuff of like hanging on that and putting that in the final sequence was very good. It felt a little more detective-y, right? It was a little more detective-y rather than like this is, spy tech, all of this stuff, which I think works for back then easily. Like it's nothing like,
yes.
It doesn't like detract or anything of like, this is how the first one starts. It's very detective-y. It's not as, high tech, but I think it works really nicely. And again, I think you see Tom bringing the bravado and the confidence early on in the movie, and yes, leaning into finding the mythos a little bit in that one of like, you can see him kind of finding himself a little bit more in that, like from all the kind of emotional switches you see from him, which I think he does a great job of. Is the team as memorable as other ones? No, I don't think really as much. I think that was maybe, again, just kind of the struggle of getting this going of like, who's he going to be able to play off of in the future type of thing. And I think, there was a little bit of that in 2 as well with kind of, other than Luther, right? Like it was pretty rough as a full thing, but I do really like going back and be like, this is exactly what, the start of it should look like. I do enjoy it. If I'm going to go watch one, is it my go-to? No, but it's one that you can't miss, in my opinion.
I was really wondering where you and I were going to end up with on MI1, because that's always been one of my least favorite in the whole franchise.
Yeah.
And I kind of, for the most part, only give it the respect that I do because it's the first, because it brings us this whole series, and because it does a really good job of threading the differences between the 60s TV show and marrying it with a modern cinema. Yeah. And, to your point, it feels like a spy flick. Okay, well, this is the old TV show. And I think it does a good job of like creating the universe that Mission Impossible then ends up occupying. And to your point about the crew around him, like that's always been one of my least favorite parts of the movie. And honestly, like I didn't like Ving Rhames in MI1. It took me quite a few years to start liking Ving Rhames. I enjoyed him more in Mission Impossible 2 than I did in 1 or 3. Yeah. But the thing that I've never liked about those early Ving Rhames appearances in this series is that like he's fine when he's just hanging back being the hacker, but sometimes he tries to go hard, and I don't find it convincing at all. I think he's cool when he just hangs back and plays it chill. And then when he tries to go hard, I'm like, no, you're like trying to be Mr. T, and you're not. You're not Mr. T at all. Like, you need to lean into who you actually are, what makes you cool. And this is not it. And like even at the end of MI2, there's a scene where he gets mad, and I think he like launches a rocket launcher or something. I can't remember what it is. It's when he's in the helicopter.
I do recall this.
And again, it's like, it's just not convincing when he tries to go hard early on in the franchise. And in the later entries, I'm thinking like in particular Fallout, he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Rogue Nation, he does that a lot. Yeah.
5 is kind of like he's hacking the Russian satellite at the beginning. Like he's on assignment doing that for them. Like, perfect. Yeah. This is it. This is like exactly.
And he's just keeping cool. He's the unflappable. Yeah. And that's when it's really fun, is when he's unflappable and confident. And like, that's when the cool oozes from Ving Rhames, because he can do that.
Yes.
I forgot also to mention when we were talking about Mission Impossible 2, Billy Baird, super weak character, Billy Baird.
Yeah.
But like very clearly the archetype of what Simon Pegg's Benji became. Like it's so obvious that they basically they liked the idea of what Billy Baird could be as a character in this universe. And they just realized that they missed on the casting with the Scottish guy, and that putting Simon Pegg in that role, who's a supremely talented actor and director, and he nailed it from minute one that he was on screen.
Yes.
All right, so I had 6 as my second least favorite, I guess, but I gave it a 7.8. You went a 7.9 for MI1. Let's see how close we are on 3, and I think we're not going to be very close. So you went first with the first one, then I went first, and now it's your turn to go first again.
Yeah, so I have MI3 here in my 6 slot again.
All right.
Team, not the best. Simon Pegg introduction, good. Now, a retcon that pays off later that you didn't have in here of like, this is a rabbit's foot. What is it? Was it Ethan's best film other than maybe the first and last kind of sequences in terms of the emotional build? No, maybe not. But I did like the escape headquarters scene. Obviously, the bridge stuff is great. But again, Philip Seymour Hoffman carries this movie. Really, really like that. But yeah, I don't know. Not showing the acquisition of the rabbit's foot after the pendulum swing. Don't love that. And again, I think that's what makes, 8 so good in my opinion, of like, no, we're showing this full sub scene. We're not like, hey, I got this thing, by the way. So there was a little bit with that. But yeah, it's still very good. I have it at like 8.2. I think it's enough better than the first. But again, I do think it was still kind of an area where the full team, you still get Luther in this one kind of at his best. The warehouse scene is good, but yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman to me carries this pretty heavily.
So my entry in this slot is actually going to be 8, Final Reckoning.
Okay.
And I gave it an 8 out of 10. Still really, really quality movie. I just that there were enough things about it that were unsatisfying to me. I didn't find Gabriel compelling. I didn't find the entity menacing or terrifying the way I did in the previous one. Taking so long to get a resolution to the biplane scene, to me, like, it dragged on just long enough that I finally started to get a little bit bored with the biplane stuff, that like maybe just cut out like 1 or 2 times of him falling back out of the plane again. And then like when Gabriel, clocks it on the tail at the end. It was a little cartoonish. It didn't wasn't, and like this franchise doesn't really get gory, but like okay, if you're gonna show a little bit of gore at this point, then like at least make it feel impactful, not like it almost needed like a Scooby-Doo sound effect. I thought. Drew says good movie, but cut out like 30 minutes of the movie. And I kind of feel
they could have filled it
maybe
with other
like
stuff,
the total runtime wasn't
the
the problem, but maybe just not enough things happened over the course of this movie that it kind of suffered a little bit from part twoism of like, we've seen this in several other, part one, part two, where the part one, they cram so much in and like, you're sitting there in the theater and you're like, when is this going to end? Like, I really thought, like an act or 2 acts ago, we were at the end of the movie. And they didn't really save quite enough content for part 2. And I kind of felt like that was happening here a little bit. That like, hey, the whole sub scene, like the payoff was fantastic. The Arctic stuff that was going on with the cabin was a little bit slow. And then we just spend so much time in South Africa, especially with the biplanes. It was very reminiscent to me of what we had just seen in Fallout with the helicopter scene dragging on for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So I just overall 8 just felt slow enough for me that it didn't hold my attention and just didn't get my heart rate up and get me on the edge of my seat the way that several other entries into this series have. So that's why I have it as an 8 out of 10. Still a quality movie, one I'm going to go back and watch numerous more times. Honestly, the only one out of here that I don't watch all the time is MI2.
Same. Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So I'll go first in this next round, and there's not a lot to say here because you already hit on it. This is MI1. Okay. I did give it a 9.2, but a lot of that is just like a gratitude toward that movie for establishing this series. And basically all the rest of the credit goes to Jon Voight and Tom Cruise for stellar acting the whole way through. Jon Voight, it's like the betrayal, his acting, and like this is the first time that we've seen any of the mask stuff happening. It's all fresh, it's all fun, and just to knock it out of the park the way they did with their first entry into the series, I think gave it the cachet that it needed to weather MI2 and how horrible that was. But the excitement level just isn't there. The rest of the supporting cast just isn't there. I find the whole storyline with Jon Voight's wife to not be terribly compelling because you're more conflicted about Ethan than you ever are in the rest of the franchise. The entire rest of the franchise, you are 100% behind Ethan the entire way through.
Yeah.
And in MI1 with Jon Voight's wife, you're just like, I'm not with you as much as I then am the rest of the series. So that took it a little bit out of me for it as well.
Yeah.
What's your number 4?
My number 5. Right. Is that where you're at? Right.
Yeah.
You have 5.
Yeah. It's 5th from the top, 4th from the bottom. Yeah.
Okay. I have Ghost Protocol here at 5. It's a 9 out of 10. I think the only thing it suffers from, is maybe the villain isn't as compelling. It's a very blank slatey kind of villain, right? Very, very determined, right? Very committed, but maybe just not the compelling villain that we get, even from Voight, especially from Hoffman, especially. Oh gosh, what's the actor's name who plays the villain in 5 and 6? So I can't think of his name now.
Oh, that's I was just reading his Wikipedia just 2 days ago.
Gosh sakes. I should know.
Because Solomon Lane is the character.
Yeah, Sean Harris. He's like it's not a Sean Harris, level villain. It's not as bad as Ambrose, but it's not up there.
Like Ambrose is clearly the weakest villain in the whole series.
Yeah.
It's not close.
Yeah, and so Hendricks to me is fine, but obviously this one I think is Simon getting more They gave him a lot more, and he delivers on it. The nervousness of the first, type of mission. I thought you said the Kremlin joke is something I definitely chuckle at every time.
You talking about when he stands up in front of the camera?
That is very good. The nervousness to kind of throw that droplet thing, but also when Ethan gets that exposition dump at the payphone, where Ethan tells them we're going to the Kremlin, and Simon's and Benji goes, I thought you said the Kremlin. I love that little. Yeah, that's real. I really like that. So I really do like that. And obviously Renner's edition is excellent, right? And I think that is, to me, again, these all of the
it's
top
the only
five
movie
for me,
where he's a good addition.
Yeah, it's like, to me, like the top five again are all 9 and above for me, because this franchise is sick, so this is not any.
I also
and again,
the top
subject to change, because maybe 8 won't be as high for me after a couple rewatches, and maybe 4 will come back up a little higher. They're all right there in that same little mini tier for me, but like obviously the Burj, right? The Kremlin stuff was good, like high level security place to infiltrate into. Was Mumbai maybe not the best setup at the end, perhaps, but they got Paula Patton's character much more involved in that scenario, which I liked. But
that was where she really shone.
Yes. Jeremy Renner saying next time I get to seduce the rich guy was excellent one-liner
the best
in
humor
there.
In the whole series,
Jump and I'll catch you. So that sequence does have its moments for sure. The Burj obviously building that out, and the tension.
Well, the Burj is the best stunt in the entire series. Do you disagree?
The tension of the meetings too on both floors that they build with the camera that gets to go, to go to both
printer.
floors is so good. Yes. Also, all the malfunctions, really good. Really like that as well. The mask malfunction.
The malfunctioning glove is the funniest thing that ever happened in the entire. The only joke that comes close to the malfunctioning glove is Benji standing up in front of the camera in the Kremlin.
Yes, yeah. The Jeremy Renner 20 minutes to door knock. The countdown's not helping. Really great. Like the Burj scene and sequence is
the numbers being wrong.
Yeah,
the door numbers. Yeah.
Yes, and like that to be like sequence wise. Yeah, I mean it's dwarfed maybe by one sequence, which I'll get to. But like, yeah, I mean, again, other than the villain, I think it does a really good. Love that they make the as well. And this is, again, as I'm going through this, maybe Ghost Protocol should be higher. Lovely that the launch happens. We're not preventing the launch. We have to prevent the destruction now portion of this. The missiles in the air type.
They're definitely up in the ante,
which is great.
This is the moment that I think of. So at the end of Fallout, when who is it? I think Benji is the person who asks Ethan, like, how close were we? And he's like, the usual. Like,
yeah,
the missile launch in Ghost Protocol is the moment that I immediately thought of when Ethan said that.
For sure. Yeah, no question. Yes, that's 100% where you go back to. Yeah. The usual. Yeah, Ethan actually, I think Brad Bird being in it kind of lent to some of the corny stuff, which I think fit in pretty nicely of like mission accomplished. No, it's because I smashed the button even harder that like 11th time or whatever it was, that maybe just your willpower rather than anything else makes it stop. But yeah, and then to light the fuse at the beginning, right, to start the whole like title card sequence and all of that. Very Brad Bird. Very like, oh wow, no, like this is the director who made The Incredibles. Like that's not shocking at all. But I really like.
Who directed 3? Wasn't that Brad Bird as well? I thought it was.
I thought was it J.J. Abrams on 3?
Oh, it was. It was definitely J.J. Abrams.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's. I was like, he wasn't one. So
it is. I just googled it. It's definitely J.J. Abrams.
Yeah. Because I remember until Macquarie, it was like they had different guys all the way through. But yeah,
I wonder if J.J. Abrams resurrecting Mission Impossible was like why he started getting brought in to resurrect other franchises, like Star Trek and Star Wars.
Probably, yeah. Probably why he got it. He's like, okay,
it's kind of his reputation at this point.
It was kind of like he got a bit of a layup opportunity of like, hey, don't be as bad as 2, and he was kind of like, okay, well, We could do that. Give Philip Seymour Hoffman here. We're already good. Like, we don't have to worry, type of thing. But yeah, Ghost Protocol, man, it could be higher. It really could. Really could.
It is higher for me.
Yeah.
So I went first on this tier. So I said 1, you said 4.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 4 is my next one. It's it's my 4th from the top, 5th from the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So I give it a 9.8 out of 10. I really love Ghost Protocol. Where it does fall flat a bit is, you nailed it. It's the villain. And you singled out like his lack of being compelling as a villain. I didn't buy into his motivation, right? Like, he was very Bond villain-esque as far as like, I'm evil for the sake of being evil. Yep. And you had other villains in the franchise who were more menacing and had more realistic, understandable goals. And so, like, the overall plot of the movie, you know, it obviously set the trend then of the next 3 movies were all Hunt getting disavowed. And so, this is the first time that happened. And it was interesting.
Does he technically in 1? I don't remember now.
In 1?
Does he technically get disavowed? I mean, not. Is it more implied, I guess?
I think it's more implied. But, like, 4,
I don't
5, and 6, he gets disavowed in all of them.
Yes.
And then he gets disavowed again, essentially, at 8 as well. Well, and 7, even. 7, but 7 is more so because, like, the IMF just, like, no longer exists. Like, it's all everybody for themselves at that point.
Yeah.
But for me, the Burj is the greatest stunt in the entire franchise. It is easily the stunt that has me on the edge of my seat. Like, I can't watch the sequence without my heart rate spiking. And, unless you're watching it on like a tiny little phone screen or something, if you're watching on any kind of a decent sized TV at all, you just get sucked into, like, this is a terrifying stunt. When he jumps and smacks his head, and then he gets caught by the ankle, like, I come out of my chair a little bit every single time. It's terrifying.
It is.
And the laser cutter chase.
And the laser cutter. Goodness sakes.
He's swinging. Yeah. The sandstorm chase where he's got the GPS and he's got the scarf. Really good.
The classic line of, that's too far off. Don't worry about that. And it's like, okay, perfect. Cool. Nice. We're getting a sandstorm chase for sure.
I liked Paula Patton a ton. I was really disappointed that we didn't get her back in Rogue Nation. I thought that she was a strong entry to the series. Simon Pegg was great. We never saw Jeremy Renner play that big of a role ever again.
Yeah, which was tough.
And that was disappointing because although I don't think that he had the cachet to carry the franchise in Tom's stead, he was a very compelling second man. The number 2 guy. So I was disappointed that he never, in Rogue Nation, super funny scenes with him in the briefing room thing. When he's getting questioned. Super funny. But, like, he kind of just got relegated to, like, desk jockey,
which
essentially for the rest
I think
of the
was unfortunately
series.
because of all of the Marvel commitments, which is tough. Because we're in, like,
for not even being a big role in Marvel too. That's
he just all of the, like, Age of Ultron to Civil War. We got to move quickly. We got to do all this Endgame and Infinity War prep, which is totally understandable, right? They're building towards all of that. It did stink that he was relegated there, but they found a way, I think, to at least get him more involved. But I think we'll get there too, for sure. So
what's your 4?
I went back and forth on this because I think 7 and 8 are right there. To me, they're almost equal, and I only thought of this just now, but this actually to me mirrors Infinity War and Endgame a little bit. And here's where I'll go with this. Dead Reckoning like Infinity War, feels like the villain's movie. Dead Reckoning is the entity's movie. Infinity War is Thanos' movie. That it didn't dawn on me until we started doing this. So I think they're kind of equal in that regard. I'm going to leave them at
That's true with Harry Potter as well.
Yes. 100%. Why they split it up into two parts of like, no, this is like...
You got the Voldemort movie and then you got the Harry movie.
Yes. Yeah. So I get why the entity doesn't pack the punch in 8 versus 7, because 7 is the entity's movie and 8 is kind of like, again, like in Endgame is the Avengers movie. It's Ethan and company's movie more than the entities in the second part, which I have no problem with that now thinking about it. As I said, they're both 9.3s for me. I could go either way, just because I don't want to definitively say, I know I said it already, but like Final Reckoning, I don't want to put in my top 3 definitively until I see it a second time. Again, all 3 of these with Ghost Protocol and both Reckonings are very, very close. I'll just say, because I've seen it less, I'll put Final Reckoning at 4, just because I do think, like, I think you have convinced me a little bit more on Dead Reckoning and how it's set up. But I do just, again, it's tough. I know if this is the first one you're seeing and you're seeing all these throwbacks and stuff, you're like, I hate this. What's going on? Why do I need to see throwbacks? And it's kind of like, for those of us who have built this up and like have watched all of this leading to this, I liked it. As you said, Angela Bassett's phenomenal. Nick Offerman's character, you know, I get.
I didn't hate him, but I know
there
were people who
maybe
didn't feel he was well cast for that role.
Maybe just because they were hoping he'd probably pack more of a punch. I think because he was the one getting cast for a role like that, so I understand that a little bit, but I just love the moments. Should let him have a mustache. Yeah, well, there you go. It would have been nice to have Carrie Elwes' character in this one as well. I know he kind of got that little bit of
disappointment for me.
But obviously, in 7, they
only just ever got a tease of him.
They did off him in 7, which is a tough one. But I liked the like. Now we're gonna fully lean into the mythos for one of like we'll figure it out and like, you know, doing it, you know, Ethan's way. And I loved Degas and Paris joining the team. I was really excited that fleshed out and happened. It sucks not having Rebecca Ferguson in this. It really does. But I know like 3 films is a lot. Unless you're Simon Pegg, I guess, you know, but it was nice seeing Pom Klementieff get more time in there. I'd love the back and forth with her and Benji. That was really good. And again, just the stunts, the submarine was just unbelievable. Really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed, again, bringing in more callbacks. Callback to 1 for this guy of like also how everything Ethan kind of reeling with the idea of everything he did led to, you know, kind of where they were at, but also everything he did led them to where they were at to combat it. I really liked that kind of like dueling, those dueling thoughts as well in there. Again, I think, yes, lack of entity, lack of Gabriel in the movie. But again, I thought this was more of like, this is their movie now. This is the entity got, you know, shown off a ton in the last one, but this was theirs. This is this group's. This is, you know, Ethan having an incredible final moment with Luther, but still also showing like I think we kind of saw Gabriel and the entities, you know, sort of strength early in the film of like, you know, completely catching them off guard in multiple occasions. So it gave you some of that. It gave you some stakes early on as well. But I really did love the United States, you know, that their room of tension was really good. And as we already talked about, I wish we had seen more of that from other countries as well, which would have been really, really nice. But again, the biplane stuff is excellent. I really enjoyed, you know, just, again, the additions, Simon Pegg, you know, just the little exchanges of like, this is your team type of thing. Like we already talked about, love the submarine crew, the submarine operators, really, really good. Again, Ethan doing Ethan things of like, no, I'm just going to jump out of the Osprey. Like there's no other option. We're not backing, like just all of this. It just felt very much like the trio.
You could
It
feel
felt like
Ethan's
the trio in
desperation
Endgame.
in this one more.
Yes, yeah, which it needed to be there, and I think that really, kind of him kind of embodying the trio in Endgame, essentially, of just like I think he embodied all of them. And so I'm glad I thought of that as we were going through these. But I did really enjoy it. I can't wait to see it again and kind of flesh out the thoughts. But yeah, it was tough going between 7 and 8.
Bayshore Park says these guys must not have girlfriends. LOL. 3 hours without interruption. My sister-in-law is hanging out with my wife, so she's occupied, and the kids are in bed. So this is my time to relax, talk about football, talk about movies, and I'm in my element. However, I did eat some really, really spicy wings for dinner, and I think I probably have like maybe 20 more minutes before I'm going to be in serious need of some plumbing.
We'll keep it moving. Right.
So
top 3 time.
So
it's top 3.
I think you get the first pick on top 3 then. Yeah. What's your number 3?
It's Dead Reckoning.
Okay.
Again, really glad I figured out Entity's movie, the terrifying thought of it. Going in was like, oh yeah, this is I think a decently compelling villain for not being human if you're not counting Gabriel, right? Of like, oh yeah, this could happen. I think it was a better fleshed out villain than I think it was to the level that people probably wanted Ultron to be in that movie. I feel like it's a really well fleshed out version of it. Yeah. Where it's like, people were wanting more from Ultron in that movie. It's like, well, I think you're getting it here, just not in a form of itself, but you have a true devotee kind of walking the walk as his kind of hype man. So
would have been nice
to action almost. Would have
been nice to have somebody like James Spader cast as the Entity. The Entity didn't have any actor personality. Which maybe made it all the more threatening that it was.
Maybe, maybe it's not the soothing voice of James Spader. It's kind of like, oh, I like this. It's kind of like, no, this is truly terrifying. Why it gets dinged? Ilsa getting off to this one, that hurt. That, but it was meant to. But it did a great job because I was livid the first time I watched it. Love the build up again, as always, between Ethan and Benji of like, yeah, this is it. I gotta take the motorcycle off this mountain. Just like building to it was really good. That the train, like, that is actually a real thing. The camera was attached to it and you can see it. They did the train thing of it like going into the river, which is awesome.
So much fun. So much fun.
Really, really good. The tension in the room with Alana is excellent. The realization the entity's in the room is excellent.
I thought Alana actually outdid her Fallout performance.
I think
just
so.
Saying something because she was good in Fallout.
Yes, yeah.
She leveled up.
I did like that. I really did. This is the opening sequence is a little jarring because you're kind of like, oh, this is Mission Impossible. There's nobody in this I know, right? Like this, it's a very different introduction, which I think helps it.
Well, it was also misdirection because you think that that the sub is going to be the threat, and they're talking about like, hey, we are the deadliest force in the ocean, and so you think that means that is, and honestly, it takes a while because I think for a while in the movie, you are still expecting that sub, the technology that sub is, to be the thing that people are after.
Yes. And
it takes a while to realize, no. We're setting this up as an example of something that's really menacing that doesn't stand a chance against the entity.
Yeah. No, it's true.
So it was a successful misdirection.
Yeah, I do like that a lot. Carrie Elwes in the U.S.'s back dealings and all of it was really good. Again, Pom Clemente as Paris. I had a blast. Again, glad
I loved
she
her
lived.
In 8. I loved her in 8.
Yeah.
7, she didn't do as much for me, but by the time we got to her again at 8.
Yeah, she had the kind of psychotic though, like
sold.
Devotion thing going on of like just driving the Hummer looking thing. Like, yeah, give me all of that. The shaky cam close up in the alley fight. Oh, really great. Really.
Yeah, it was a tense scene for sure.
It was really good. So I enjoyed it a lot. I'm going to leave it ahead of 8 just because slightly. They both have 9 threes for me. Really, really liked both. I've seen Dead Reckoning more, so I kept it ahead. We'll see if anything changes though. Upon multiple.
Dead Reckoning is my number 3 as well.
Okay.
And I gave it a perfect 10 out of 10 rating.
Okay.
I really didn't have a single problem with it.
Nice. Okay.
You listed all the strengths that I loved about it, and
it is very good. I think for me the struggle to rewatch was okay. No more Ilsa, I guess. That's tough. Don't like that. I was like, I don't. I'll just be over here rewatching 5 and 6. Don't bother me. But yeah,
it was a good pain though because it was an earned pain.
Yeah,
and then seeing Ethan grieve her, and I think
the build up, right? The whole like this is my first time in Venice. Me too. I'm like, that's it. See ya. That's I right then and there it was kind of like okay, well, yep. This is why Haley Atwell's being introduced, isn't it? Like it very much hit me right then and there. Like okay,
and I think that
I've seen this before. I've seen this type of setup before. And I'm glad they paid it off too. That was a nice thing as well. They kind of paid that off of like, no, we're not doing the gotcha thing. We already did it early in the film, but yeah.
Well, I think Ethan and Ilsa always wanted to be together. And, once Ethan and his wife separated, he was never with anybody else the entire rest of the franchise.
I don't mind that, honestly. Because Bond always tries to drum up the relationship part of it more so. And like, it can do that. We don't need that. But I do think this was the closest.
This made the loss of Ilsa more painful though, because they wanted to be together. Her much more openly than he did, but he clearly had a soft spot for her.
Yes.
And then, but he still has this like devotion, like even though he and his wife chose to separate to keep her safe.
Yeah.
He clearly has this loyalty and devotion to her. And then at the end of Fallout, the previous movie, is when he finds out that his wife has moved on. She's remarried. So he has this permission, I guess.
Yeah.
To go be with Ilsa. Mm-hmm. And it never comes to fruition because she's murdered by Gabriel.
Yes.
So we're revealing our number 1 at this point, right?
Yes.
And,
yes.
So I'm trying to remember here. So you still have Rogue Nation and Fallout, right?
5 and 6.
5 and 6 are the two that you have not revealed yet.
Yep.
So Fallout for me was my second lowest.
It was.
So we didn't really see eye to eye on that. But my top 2 include
5 and 3,
Rogue Nation, and MI3.
Yes.
Which was low for you. MI3, I think, was your second to last.
No,
right?
6th. It was 6th. MI1 was second to last. Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we both really agree on 5 and then wildly disagree on 3 and 6, which I think is really interesting. So
yes.
Do we want to just say at the same time? We want to just say what our number 1 is? I'll count down. Ready?
This got a 10 for you, correct? Did your third get a 10 as well?
My third got a 10.
Okay, so you have 3 10s. This is my only 10.
Okay.
This is my only 10. All right, here we go.
I think I know what your number 1 is.
Oh yeah. I think I said it already. I think I've said it here
probably
tonight.
Did.
I did.
Well, I'm gonna count down. Ready?
Okay.
3, 2, 1, 3.
Rogue Nation.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought yours was. So Rogue Nation obviously was my number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So 5 and 7, Rogue Nation and Dead Reckoning, I both gave a 10 to. MI3, I gave a 10 plus. Okay. This is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Wow. And
it's entirely carried by Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I mean,
I have a short list of
good
the
reason
best
to leave it up
villains
there
I've ever seen in any movie. Heath Ledger's Joker and Philip Seymour Hoffman in MI3 hold the top 2 spots for me for all-time villains. Tied with Darth Vader, I guess. All right, you got those 3. So, Philip Seymour Hoffman, menacing, charismatic, compelling, interesting. The stunts in this are great. The tension at the end when he's trying to save his wife. This is one of the few times in the series where I truly bought into the terror and the fear of is he going to be able to save her in time? Then you have the rug getting jerked out from under your feet when he's trying to save that girl on the helicopter.
Yes.
And you don't see it coming. You think he's going to be able to save her. Tool for this says Charles Minor doesn't make your top villains list. Well, but it's not besmirch Charles Minor.
It's true.
Of course, from The Office, which is Idris Elba. I mean, come on. Charles Minor is not even the best Office villain, right? You got to go James Spader with the Lizard King, right? Mm-hmm. But you got great stunts. The MI3, the masks in MI3, I think are maybe the only time in the series where I find the masks interesting and enjoyable. But seeing Ethan put the mask on, is a lot of fun. It's kind of the only time that we really actually get to see that in its full. We're not gonna use any camera cuts to, kind of cut corners and take the easy way out. Without Philip Seymour Hoffman, it still would have been, a 9+ for me. Okay. But you toss in, Philip Seymour Hoffman is the best actor performance in this entire franchise. Better than anything that Tom Cruise did, even Rebecca Ferguson. Philip Seymour Hoffman's portrayal in this movie is the best in the whole franchise. And I need to see this movie so many more times.
Even interrogated on the plane.
Out of my system.
Yeah.
He's so scary too.
Yep.
And also, I think you add to it the fact that Philip died so young. And this is one of his best roles that he was able to get out in his career before he passed away. I think kind of adds to it for me of I think had he kept living, you would have seen some more cool roles like this from his career. And I think we were kind of robbed of that. So I kind of savor his performance even more. Tool for this. Are the Mission Impossibles streaming somewhere? I know that at least Dead Reckoning is available on Prime for free right now. Because
the others are on Prime. Oh, there it is. Well, there it is.
Yeah, but I know Dead Reckoning, you don't have to have a Prime subscription to be able to watch it. I do know that.
That is true. How long? Don't know.
So all right, I'll let you talk about Rogue Nation then. And I think you should make sure you talk for at least 2 minutes about something about that movie that was not Rebecca Ferguson.
Oh, that's no problem at all. Okay. So love at the beginning. It's to me, this is it. So JJ says 3 is one of his, I think, of the best films to him of all time. This might be this is in the top 3 for me. You put a Mount Rushmore of movies together, Rogue Nation is on it. Period. It's not. We'll save. How about this? I'll save the Rebecca Ferguson part for the end. How's that? We'll build to that. So for starters, the opening is great. Just not following the rules at all. Classic opening. We'll throw the Ethan Hunt plus precariously suspended on high moving vehicle trope right off the bat on a plane of all things. Just very classic, flying by the seat of the pants. Got the parachute on the what is it? Something like Nerf gas. Just really, really good. It's just Jeremy Renner. Yes, he's reduced to kind of the behind the scenes guy, but I think he wasn't given a lot. But I think he somehow did well as the sidekick, interesting pass, butt kicker in 4, but also kind of the snarky, kind of that side of him in the fifth one, I think plays really well. Love that they're plunged into the real world. Like the committee's asking them questions. Great. Jeremy Renner's got the elite line start to finish. I can neither confirm nor deny any details of any operation without the secretary's approval. Love that it's full circle. I do think Alec Baldwin actually does a great job of being the CIA contract. He's maybe not as good as Briggs. Is it Briggs? What's the in 7 and 8? Like he's not really like the government official, but I think he does a really good job of being that kind of separate antagonist of kind of leading the strike force in 7 and 8, kind of opposition to Hunt. But I think Baldwin does it really well from behind a desk. The arrogance, of course. A little callback to saying he was at the CIA at the time of MI1. Really like that too. But just the opera sequence, it's that in the Burge sequence to me, the top two. And it's, you could haggle about which one's top. The opera sequence to play off of all the different characters, I think it just does such a good job. Love that Solomon Lane is not in one of the upper deck type of things at the opera, like a menacing villain. Nope, I'm in the crowd, man. I know what I'm trying to bring down. I know my motivation. I'm not going to fall for that trope that a Sean Ambrose would fall for, that maybe even Philip Seymour Hoffman would. He definitely would, because he is arrogant and brash, but can back it up also. But I do love that a little bit. But I love that we're playing around that big sequence, finding one assassin. Turns out there were 3 of them. Ethan's solution is perfect, and yet
his solution is what brings that scene all together and puts a nice bow on.
Yeah, I just feel like the music and the tension and all of that with all the different players on to me was a chessboard.
Fun fact, I've been to that opera
phenomenal.
before.
Have you really?
That's
awesome. That's very cool. They need a plaque there, like Ethan jumped off the top of the roof. Also love that it's not perfect. The pole falls down as well after they
classic Mission Impossible humor.
Yes. Yeah. Just exactly like, oh yes, we're building off of 4. I love this. Continuing a little bit of Brad Bird in there of like would definitely do that. McQuarrie does it as well. Man, what I could be here for a week. I shouldn't be, but I just, again, I find the villain compelling of like, no, I was in my government. I did all this. The motivations there, like understanding like, Rebecca Ferguson's, line of like you get rid of innocent people type of thing. I'm not going to use the K word on here just for obvious reasons, but and then Lane's character coming back and saying, I helped my government do that and more, much, much more. And just like, I think he's not overwhelming, right? He's not imposing physically, but he feels like somebody who would just kind of bite your ear off. Sean Harris does a tremendous job. Again, I think the Chief Atlee casting is really good as well, of just kind of being like you're undercover with this, like kind of, I have this over your head type of thing. The excuse me, the slight perhaps misdirection of when Luther finds out her identity and saying she's bad news. Love that little misdirect. Mission Impossible season fans know it's a misdirect, but those who don't, that it builds great tension in that. You die, you essentially die in the water down there, right? And as we kind of talked about before, like the sequence, the chase scene in the car, going from car to motorcycle, just the way Ethan and Benji play off each other on that is so good. And then all of the players kind of joining in Morocco, I really, really like that. And again, I think the dialogue was exceptional in this, of like, leading up to the prime minister, kind of sequence as well, of like Alec Baldwin's character going, you still believe you could control any outcome, as he's about to walk into an outcome they are already controlling. Really love that. And kind of that Ethan doesn't even necessarily beat Lane. He just kind of outmaneuvers him, I think is a really, that's people have really have put it well, of like, and then of course the dialogue. I know I'm going to put you in a box. It's so good. It's incredible. Yes, he gets, there's a little bit of desperation and irrational like feeling you get from Ethan in this one, especially when they kind of have that meeting at the train station as well, and just all of that build up to that. It's so good. The motorcycle chase, classic, excellent. Let's throw that in there, but it's so good on top of it, and he's really doing it. Of course, that motorcycle is much better than 6 to me. Like that is out on the freeway. All of that's really, really good, and just
it's fun because Ilsa is out driving Ethan.
Yes,
and it's kind of fun seeing him, getting shown up like that by her.
Yeah,
it's one of the kind of early things that she does that really makes you as the audience and Ethan really start to realize that she needs to be respected.
Yes. She's on the level. She's on the playing field. She deserves to be on the playing field. And yeah, I mean, just knowing Ethan's motivation as well of like, I'll just stand out in this road. I know he's not going to hit me. He's not going to risk anyone like that. It's so good. Also at the beginning, by the way, when he gets captured, really love that. We kind of gloss over it. If you watch it back, Lane is in one of the recording studio booths as Ethan walks in. Really love that detail.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, it's not something you pick up on, but he is in there initially. And then the stunt of him like going up that like pole is real. I don't even know how you do that. I have no clue how you do that. Especially, at his age. He was still, gosh, what was he back? He was, in early 50s, right? I think something like that of like, man, you're doing this. It's incredible. So there's never a dull moment for me in this one at all. Like it just start to finish. If I'm picking one of the movies to throw on, it's this one. It is. It's just Ilsa's introduction's done so well. Her backstory's done so well. And that's what's really nice about this. When you go like, oh, I don't like 8 because they don't flesh out the character dialogue, right? All of the like tension in the background of like all these governments getting taken over by the entity, right? And the nuclear systems. Like, no, we get all the back. The dialogue in between like Ethan's movies when he's not on screen. Like we're still getting that, whether it's Hundley and Jeremy Renner's character, whether it's Lane and Ilsa, we get all of that. And I think McQuarrie had a difficult task to me of like building off of 5 with the next 3, like a supremely difficult task because of, I think how excellent it was.
Circling back to Ilsa one more time too. The fact that she was like every bit as competent and capable as Ethan was the difference between what's Michelle Monaghan's character's name? What's his wife's name?
Oh, Julia.
It's the difference between her and Julia. So, Ethan has to walk away from Julia because she's at risk. You know? And he knows that he is going to choose her over saving the world. And Ilsa can take care of herself. And so this is the reason why the appeal is there with her, and it doesn't seem unbelievable. Because I think anybody else who he could possibly get romantically involved with, and he doesn't with Ilsa, but anybody else that he could have any kind of a life with, it completely undermines the sacrifice of giving up Julia. And that's not something that they could afford to do, was to cheapen that sacrifice.
No.
And so then I think, again, that makes it all the more painful that he never does have the opportunity to have a life with Ilsa, despite the fact that I think that they would have made each other very happy. Mm-hmm. The fact that she had everything that was needed in order to make a life with her possible. Yeah. So then her getting killed is just all the more painful because of just the sense that, hey, this really was possible, because of who she was.
She was maybe the one who I was like, oh, she could take over. Like she could do it. Rebecca Ferguson could take over, right? If Tom wanted to keep doing the films but not star in them. So yeah, that was maybe another difficult part of it.
And I wonder if she was okay. She obviously, realized that she was getting replaced by Haley Atwell, and she had her, frustrations with, having her role diminished because of that. But I also wonder if she maybe thought that she was potentially going to be the new face of the franchise at some point.
Potentially, yeah. It's true.
Well, listen, all right, people have kind of given us some grief about the fact that we've gone over 3 hours. I think this is probably our new longest. 3.25 hours.
I actually don't think so.
No?
I think
you think it's at least our second longest?
I think we've done 3.5.
Have we done 3.5 more than once, though?
I honestly, I think so. It wouldn't shock me. Put it that way.
The only reason we can do it is because we have people who tune in and listen and let us go this long.
Very true.
That's true. Other shows don't go this long because their audiences don't put up with it. So appreciate you guys hanging around.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
So Jake, how many more times are you going to see Mission Impossible before it leaves the theaters?
Probably at least twice. I would say, I think this weekend for sure. I'm glad I didn't twice this weekend, which I think I told you I was going to do. I have no problem spacing it out a little bit more. Lets me think about like the rankings, especially of like, all right, where's it actually going to fall? But I did enjoy it. I think it's for me, it's hard to just from 4 through 8. I just feel like it's, for me at least, there are no misses. And even 3 through 8, honestly, it doesn't miss. So love the series.
Yeah, well said.
Stinks that it's coming to an end. At least for now.
Allegedly.
At least for now. As in the famous words of Goody, yet.
Yet.
It comes to getting more picks, getting more Mission Impossible movies. But yeah, this was fun to put together some rankings. And by the way,
Adam says love the movie.
I did have Fallout at 2, and I know you had Rogue Nation at 2. So yeah.
I did also just want to acknowledge. So too old for this a bunch of times.
Friendship
with hyping up Lilo and Stitch. So listen, I have heard from everybody out there that the Lilo and Stitch movie is not good. But I am going to see it this weekend because my daughter really wants to go to the theaters. Okay. Wife is going to be out of town. It's just going to be me and my daughter at home. She's been begging to go to the movie theaters for a long time. And in my movie theater, it's Lilo and Stitch and a couple of horror movies. And that's it. So Lilo and Stitch it is. So I don't know if we're going to do a movie review of Lilo and Stitch next Tuesday. But I'll for this, I'll at least give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
There you go. Like it.
On the live action remake of Lilo and Stitch. For the most part, I have tended to enjoy the live action Disney remakes. Even back, I saw Cinderella when it came out in theater, and I enjoyed that one, just fine. I did not. I think there's 2 of the remakes I have not seen yet. I have not gotten around to seeing Mulan, and that's honestly mostly because I don't have anybody who's interested in seeing it with me, and I just don't get around to seeing a ton of movies by myself these days. That's the biggest reason.
Yeah.
And then I still also have not seen the new Snow White, but most of the other live action remakes I've seen, Jungle Book was good. Lion King was fine. That was maybe one of the ones where I was a little bit underwhelmed. Maleficent was great. I haven't seen Sleeping Beauty. That's another one I haven't seen.
Oh no.
So, are they Mission Impossible? No, they're good.
They are not. They are not.
Well, listen, it's happened again. You've squandered another perfectly good hour with us here on Derailed. Don't know why you keep doing it, but
this is actually the longest. You were right.
Is it really?
It is. By a couple minutes.
I thought we had one that was like 3:31 or something.
I thought so too, and I can't find it. We have a 3:18, which was like 2 weeks ago.
All right, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. So we just barely eclipsed that one. All right. Hey, props to us. High five. Top. All right. Take your hat off, you disrespectful heathen. This is Ed Policy time here. Look at our hat hair, both of us.
Yep.
We both have great hat hair. In the words of the late, great, immortal Ed Policy. Thank you all. Merry Christmas. And go Pack.